Good afternoon. We're going to begin today's, I don't know what the proper word has been. I think that's why we've all had a challenge, whether it's a forum, a workshop, a meeting, because it's not technically an ad hoc, because it wasn't ever officially appointed. Manny and I volunteered. So our coming together today to discuss the election integrity that has been presented to us, and I appreciate each and every one of you coming. As I've said before, we may not agree on everything, but at least we can talk about things and work through some of the issues and hopefully understand each other's perspective. We have quite a few folks here from the county that are the experts in their field. And with that, let's go ahead and get started. As with all of our meetings, an invocation, and we have Cynthia Fernandez from our county clerk's office. And then I'd like to have the man who listens to me all the time, other than Phil, my chief of staff, over this particular issue. If those of you who don't know, it's Juan Perez. This is under his portfolio as the assistant executive officer. Will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Let us begin.
Good afternoon, everyone. Please let us pray. Dear Lord, we are here today to discuss topics that affect all of us. I pray you guide us always and satisfy the needs that need to be met during this meeting. Grant us the wisdom to make this meeting productive. Even if we have different opinions, give us unity of spirit, remove any distractions that will make this meeting unproductive, and bless us to work together for a better future for all of us. Amen.
Amen.
Today on September 11th, a day of special remembrance for all of us, will you please join me in the pledge to our nation's flag? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Juan, for reminding us that today is a very special day. It's the 23rd anniversary. I don't know if anybody here has attended any events that memorialize what happened 23 years ago. I've gotten to 3 so far. I've got another one tonight if we get done. And it's a time that we need to make sure that we don't forget. Our ability to sit here, have discussions, are because people previous to us have had the opportunity to stand up and give us those freedoms. We had a day 23 years ago where that became in jeopardy. We were attacked by terrorists on our soil. And with that being said, we cannot forget those almost 3,000 individuals that perished. So just let's take a moment of silence. Mr. Perez, would you like to say a few words?
Just very quickly, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you all for being here as well. I appreciate the fact that we're having this discussion on September 11th. Appreciate the points made about September 11th. I think everyone remembers where they were on that specific day. I was at UC Berkeley, actually studying when it all occurred, and I was in class. And we abruptly stopped class and just basically we tried to understand what was going on at that time. It was horrific. But obviously, we pay homage to our folks that have passed on, that were there, that were tragically killed. And at the same time, we pay homage and respect and honor those individuals that are part of our service today, whether they're in the Marines or the Army, but they're there in our armed forces to take care of us and to protect us, and that's why we're here. Freedom is not free. We all know that. So thank you so much, Madam Chair, for me to say a few words, and I'm looking forward to this conversation.
I do not want to overlook our first responders that were lost in that event. We always think of military, but our first responders are the ones that ran in to save as many folks as can, and many of them lost their lives. So make sure we do not forget that. Okay, we are going to, the order we're doing, and I've talked with Greg, as your representative of sharing back with us, we're going to begin with Art with his presentation, followed by Greg, and then public comments, and in that order. So, Art, you're on.
Very good. Good afternoon, supervisors. Good afternoon to everybody. Art Tinoco, Registrar of Voters for Riverside County. If we could get my presentation up on the screen, thank you, and I'll get started. So again, today's election integrity workshop is for the election ad hoc, and I will start off with my usual slide, which is the Registrar of Voters is committed to upholding election laws, regulations to ensure the integrity, transparency of the electoral process in Riverside County, which again, we feel very proud of. Today's presentation overview, the ROV has listened to and reviewed public comments from the election integrity workshop held on August the 12th. The Board of Supervisors meetings as well. This presentation will cover responses to common questions and concerns. The ROV is evaluating enhancements to improve chain of custody and signature verification. And there will be an FAQ section that this department will be making available on the ROV website at voteinfo.net very soon. General questions and concerns that have come from the public, accuracy and maintenance of voter files, Help America Vote Act, HAVA compliance, ROV USPS ballot process, signature verification procedures, certification procedures for election results, reporting voting irregularities to law enforcement, and the process for implementing voter enhancements. So that's what my presentation will cover today. I'll start off with the first common question and concern, which is accuracy and maintenance of voter rolls or files. Voter file maintenance. So voter file maintenance is an important function of the Register of Voters, as I had shared with all of you on August the 12th. California Election Code governs the way the Register of Voters must proceed with maintenance procedures and updating voter records. We do receive a lot of government agency information, so there's a lot of data that's coming from the USPS National Change of Address. That information comes to us daily. DMV change of address information is also pushed to us on a daily basis. The USPS undeliverable mail, daily when the ROV mails election materials, that is when we mail election ballots and any other materials such as letters requesting missing information, registration cards, and of course the official ballots as they are coming back. Mortality report with local and state data. That is done, provided to us locally once a month, and from the state we receive it quarterly. Felony cancellation reports from local and state data. Those are provided to elections officials weekly. Conservatorship cancellation reports from local and state data. Again, this data is received locally, weekly, as well as the state. Additionally, the ROV does work with the vote-by-mail ballot vendor, and for the very first time in Riverside County, we worked with Experian to verify voter data is checked before printing of official ballots. And as of today, I can tell you that we have verified our voter rolls with the VVM ballot vendor in preparation for the November 2024 election. And of course, we're working through the data that Experian has provided us as well. Voter file maintenance, VoteCal. I think it's important to note that in order for us to determine voter eligibility and do verification, VoteCal is California's centralized voter registration database. That means all counties, including Riverside County, we're all connected to VoteCal. Again, the state maintains that. County elections officials use VoteCal to identify duplicate registrations, transfer voter records between counties, verify registration to ensure voters are not disqualified due to criminal convictions, and perform various other tasks, as I provided the list previously on that slide of all the tasks that we're actually responsible for conducting. Data provided by DMV via VoteCal ensures accurate and voter eligibility verification. We do continuously address and resolve issues identified in VoteCal through our voter management system. All counties in the state have a local voter registration management system, and all counties work on a routine daily basis to maintain the voter files. Voter file maintenance as far as voter statuses. There are multiple voter statuses. We do have active voters, inactive voters, canceled voters, and pending voters that are part of our voter registration database. Active voters are vote by mail ballot and vote by mail ballots are mailed to all active voters, and a county voter information guide is also mailed. Official ballots start going out 29 days before the election, and the county voter information guide starts going out 40 days before the election. As far as inactive voters, these voters do not receive election materials. They can activate their registration by contacting the Registrar of Voters office. Canceled voters do not receive election materials either. They must re-register to become an active registered voter. And of course, pending voters do not receive election materials because more information is required of them. That could be because they did not provide a full mailing address, or they could also may not have provided their last 4 digits of their social security number, or an ID or driver's license number, and or even a birth date. I know some of the questions had to do with voter cancellation. What are the requirements for voter cancellation? So, effective January 1st of 2020, Assembly Bill 504 amended Elections Code 2200, eliminating the option to cancel a voter file due to non-voting. What that means then, Elections Code 2226 now mandates all register of voters in all 58 counties to change a voter's file status to inactive if official election mail is returned as undeliverable by the USPS. So the process here changed drastically as to how we were to proceed with voter cancellation. Procedures with undeliverable mail do include a residency confirmation card that is sent to the voter. The voter's file does remain inactive until the voter contacts the Registrar of Voters office. The voter files with inactive status will be removed if there has been no voting activity in 2 consecutive federal elections. So that's an important point to make there, at what point we can remove those voters. As far as voter cancellation, I do have a list of the situations that grant us to be able to cancel a voter, and that is at the signed written request of the person that's registered, when the mental incompetency of the person registered is legally established, upon proof the person is presently imprisoned or on parole for the conviction of a felony, upon the production of a certified copy of a judgment directing cancellation to be made, upon the death of the person registered, upon official notification that the voter is registered to vote in another state, and upon proof the person is otherwise ineligible to vote. There's been questions regarding a birth date placeholder, and I'd like to provide an update to this question. So approximately 204 voters have a placeholder birth year of 1800 or 1900 in Riverside County's voter rolls. Again, this occurs in a voter's profile if they registered before the early 1970s. Anything after the 1970s, the law changed, and that required voters to include birth years on their voter registration cards. At the point wherein these voters update their voter registration, then their actual birth dates will be recorded. ROV does plan to send correspondence regarding re-registration, and again, voter responses will be voluntary. We will be doing that after this upcoming November election, again, because of the short time frame and timing we have. And again, we will be releasing our data here very soon so that our ballot printer can start printing our official ballots. Experian TrueTrace. I know we talked about this during the April 12th meeting, and again, county elections officials may contract with a consumer credit reporting agency or its licensees to obtain use of change of address data, which is what we did here in Riverside County. And for each registered voter in the county elections official shall initiate a search for change of address data with the consumer credit reporting agency by providing the name and residence address of each registered voter in the county to this consumer reporting agency or its licensees. The consumer reporting agency or its licensees shall then search their database for each name and address provided by the county elections official and shall report to the county elections official any information indicating the registered voter changed their voter's residence address. And as this particular situation indicates, we are only allowed to send these third-party vendors only the name and address of a voter. We are not allowed, per California Elections Code, to send any personal identifying information, PII. So it does limit, while Experian assists with verifying names and addresses, additional review by the ROV is needed to ensure the data's accuracy. So that's very important to note. We also send a series of postcards if we do find potential voters that Experian has provided us data on, which I'll present here momentarily. We'll send a change of address postcard, which is what we did this round. We also will send a voter notification postcard to any voters where we have data where the voter data shows that the voter potentially is deceased. Let's talk about the Experian TrueTrace data results that we actually reported on August 12th. And just for a refresher, about 1.34 million voter files were sent to Experian. 123,541 records were returned as having a potential be the keyword, best new address. Approximately 64,500 records are potential in-county moves, which means that these voters still live in Riverside County, but they move within Riverside County. Approximately 32,500 records are potential out-of-county moves, which means that they moved within the state of California and no longer reside in Riverside County. But remember, that's potential. Approximately 26,000 potential out-of-state moves, meaning that these voters actually may have potentially moved out of the state of California. 146,406 returned as no best address, meaning that Experian could not validate but could also not invalidate the data whether or not there was no new best address. 1,080 potential deceased information was returned. Again, in this category, it's potential. We don't know if these voters are deceased. 1.7 million voter files were returned as matched data. Out of the 1.34 million, that's about 80% of our voter files. What this means is that the data we provided Experian, when they looked at the data, there was a matching address on the voter's credit profile. Let's talk about the results from Experian TrueTrace. So 12,491 postcards were returned as of September 7, 2024. There are still a few trickling in as I speak. 11,496 postcards confirming the voter address is correct were returned. The call center also received a few hundred phone calls wherein voters confirmed their address was also correct. That's in this category, it's about 20% of the different situations that we've encountered. So about 92% out of that 20%. Again, voters indicated, no, our address is correct. There's no change needed in our voter file. 299 postcards requesting change of out-of-county or out-of-state addresses. We had that is about 2%. These voters have been canceled. 661 postcards requesting an in-county change of address where the voter again moved within the county. That's about 5% of that 20,000. Voters have been updated. These voters' addresses have been updated in the election voter files. 17 postcards were returned by authorized persons identifying deceased voters. That's about 1%. Again, these voters have been inactivated. I'd like to point out and highlight that if a voter fails to respond to the forwardable notice and does not provide verification of a new residence address, the elections official will not change the voter registration status. Again, that's what the law reads. I also wanted to touch upon the returned undeliverable, and I will cover more of this here momentarily, but I'd like to point out since 2021, these numbers really reflect the work that's been done not only at the state level, but here at the local level, where again, we're doing daily voter file maintenance. Back in the 2021 recall election, we had a little bit over 30,000 returned undeliverable ballots. What are these ballots? These are ballots that are mailed to voters where the voter no longer resides at that address and the mail simply comes back, and it comes back to us undeliverable. June 2022, we had approximately 23,000 undeliverable ballots that were accounted for. And in November of 2022, we had about 19,000 undeliverable ballots. And by March of 2024, we showed that we have approximately 16,000, a little bit over 16,000 undeliverable ballots. So again, this graph shows us that the amount of work and time that's being spent on voter file maintenance, you can really see that there's been a lot of good work that is being done based on this graph. I'm going to change topics. I'm going to talk about the Help America Vote Act. I'm going to have County Council talk about the Help America Vote Act, HAVA, as this has also been one of the questions that's been brought up by our public. And I'll just have Ross. Oh, Ross is already here. There you go.
Thanks, Art. Good afternoon, Ross Trindle, Chief Assistant County Counsel. So the Help America Vote Act, or HAVA as it's known, was enacted in 2002 directly in response to what occurred in Bush v. Gore because of the 2000 election. And the legislation is primarily intended to serve as a funding mechanism to help modernize elections and election systems to move away from punch cards and mechanical ballot marking, which, if you were alive at that time, you remember the famous phrase hanging chads and trying to understand what the intent of the voter was. So HAVA is primarily a funding mechanism to help modernize election systems. It also established the Federal Election Assistance Commission, the EAC. And Section 301 of HAVA specifically outlines general and minimum voting system standards and also allows for states to create their own rules and to pursue additional certification. The idea of HAVA is to establish a floor, a minimum, for standards and accuracy. HAVA does not require pristine or 100% accurate voter rolls or voter registration lists. The HAVA standards for accuracy of the voter registration lists is located in Section 303. Specifically, for computerized statewide voter registration list requirements and requirements for voters who register by mail, subsection A2A, computerized list maintenance. If an individual is to be removed from the computerized list, it must be done in accordance with the National Voter Registration Act, which itself requires compliance with the Voting Rights Act. The National Voter Registration Act was passed in 1993, and the Voting Rights Act was passed in the 60s. There are only two instances prior to receiving notice for removing ineligible voters, which is felony status and death of the registrant. And the process for removing those voters from the list is set by state law, which also must comply, again, with the National Voter Registration Act and with the Voting Rights Act. Subsection A2B, conduct of the computerized list maintenance, states, quote, the list maintenance performed under subparagraph A shall be conducted in a manner that ensures that the name of each registered voter appears in the computerized list, only voters who are not registered or who are not eligible to vote are removed from the computerized list, and duplicate names are eliminated from the computerized list. Removal only for duplicates, people not registered, people ineligible to vote because of felony status, death of the registrant. Subsection A4A states that the minimum standard of accuracy for state or vote registration records. a system of file maintenance that makes a reasonable effort to remove registrants who are ineligible to vote from the official list of eligible voters. Again, must be consistent with the National Voter Registration Act, and registrants who have not responded to a notice that they receive when that maintenance is undergone. If you have not voted in 2 consecutive general elections for federal office, you will be removed after you've received that notice. If you have not received that notice, HAVA specifically states no registrant may be removed solely by reason of a failure to vote. The system is also designed to have safeguards to ensure that eligible voters are not removed in error from the official list of eligible voters. It is the policy of HAVA at the federal level, as implemented by state law and state regulations, and as implemented by the Registrar of Voters, that when in doubt, we count the vote first. Then we put it through the process to determine if it's eligible, and therefore if it should count in the final tally. There's some additional resources that we've included, and I've gone through this section here. Before I turn it back over to Art, I want to point in some discussion of a 1 in 125,000 ballot standard. That is not in HAVA. That is not in the Help America Vote Act. That is a standard that comes from the Code of Regulations promulgated by the Secretary of State that is an error limit that pertains to allowable tolerance for unpreventable hardware-related errors during pre-election testing. Again, it does not in any way relate to ballot counting. The California Voting System Standard specific section where this comes from is 4.1.1. And in order for the system to be used in any county across California, that equipment has to be certified and meet the certification requirements of the Secretary of State, and the County of Riverside system meets or exceeds that in every way.
Okay, continuing on to general questions and concerns. There were general questions and concerns regarding the USPS ballot handling. So ROV USPS ballot process, there's a daily mail pickup, and I know we covered this on the August 12th meeting. The Register of Voters warehouse staff in 2-person teams pick up mail from the USPS office every day. Mail handling procedures during elections include staff assignments where a warehouse coordinator is assigned with 2 staff members from the mail team to handle all daily mail responsibilities from Monday through Friday and Saturdays during peak election periods. Mail tray reporting during peak elections, the mail team will provide the warehouse coordinator with an approximate count of mail ballot trays and then received before returning to the ROV office. And then election day protocol on election day and for several days afterwards, warehouse staff conduct a minimum of 3 mail ballot pickups daily. I'd like to point out that the mail handling procedures and part of the mail that comes back to the ROV, it's not only official ballots. It's a combination of letters, it's a combination, even our bills that come through the USPS and also are included in our postage receipts because we have to pay for those at some point in order to get those delivered. So there's a lot of other materials that would be counted as part of our mail as it's coming through. We are enhancing USPS pickup for this November 2024 election. The ROV will implement additional security measures when collecting ballots from the USPS. We intend to utilize box trucks to sequester ballot pickup team from the ballots. We also plan to use seal logs for the transportation of the USPS ballots. That process is currently being worked on. We talked about undeliverable ballots. Again, ROV USPS ballot process includes undeliverable ballots. You'll know that there's an undeliverable ballot because there's going to be a yellow label that is placed on the bottom right-hand side of the envelope or any envelope where there is undeliverable mail. Ballots are sorted by non-deliverable categories. There's a temporarily away, an undeliverable ballot, in-county address changes, out-of-county address changes, and out-of-state address changes, where the post office is notifying us that potentially either the voter moved within the county, out of the county, or out of the state. All ballots except temporary away are recorded in the voter file as non-deliverable. Ballots are then processed as third-party change of address, and we mail out a card, which I'll show in the next slide. But temporarily away are those folks that may be on vacation and they just want the post office to hold their mail, but they really haven't moved. They're still at that same address. So this is the third-party change of address notice, which is asking the voter, do we have your address correct? Please let us know, notify us. So the voter registration file of a voter who fails to respond to the address verification mailing and who does not vote in 2 federal general elections after the date of that mailing then can be canceled, or shall be canceled in this case. Additional concerns and questions regarding the process include signature verification, so I'll touch upon that item next. And I'll start off with training. I know I shared what our training process has been at the ROV. Signature verification training is required for all ROV staff throughout the state. Staff receives thorough training to ensure precise and dependable signature verification. For the very first time, training will be conducted by a forensic document examiner that actually is being brought to us by the California Secretary of State. Also, training is offered by the California Associations of Clerks and Elections Officials and the California Secretary of State themselves. So there's a lot of opportunity for training that is absolutely, we take advantage of as it becomes available. At ROV, for this upcoming November election, we will be providing additional training, which will be provided to our temporary staff by our permanent staff, and my plan is also to make sure that during those trainings we provide as many samples of the various situations that may come up when we're signature verifying. So we're definitely going to work on providing additional training to permanent staff. Signature verification process, I feel this topic is very important. Again, it's when we're looking at signatures, there is a presumption exists that the signature on the identification envelope, signature verification statement, unsigned identification envelope statement, or provisional ballot is the voter's signature. An exact match is not required for an elections official to determine a voter's signature is valid, and that's all 58 counties in the state of California, not only Riverside County. This requirement, again, is state law. The fact signatures share similar characteristics is sufficient to determine a signature is valid. Per California Code of Regulations 20990, the examination of the signature shall be liberally construed in favor of the voter. There is also a process in signature verification known as the cure letter. If the active registered voter did not sign a vote-by-mail ballot envelope, or if the elections official has determined the signature on the vote-by-mail ballot envelope does not compare to the signature or signatures of the registered voter's file, then a cure letter will be sent to the voter to give the voter an opportunity to correct whatever is missing on the envelope or the difference. Signature cure, also signatures shall be compared to the signatures in a voter's registration record. The voter's registration record contains the signature of the voter from the voter registration affidavit. Again, as folks register throughout their lifetime, registration cards are kept in our database, and we do have signatures that we compare against the envelope. Sometimes there's more than just one signature on file, and we will look at all of them. Signatures appearing on a form issued by an elections official. When verifying a voter's signature on a vote-by-mail ballot identification envelope, signature verification statement, or unsigned identification envelope, the elections official, again, shall liberally construe the verification in favor of the voter. A voter's ballot should only be rejected if 2 different elections officials unanimously find beyond a reasonable doubt the signature differs in multiple and significant aspects from the voter registration record. At this point, a cure letter is sent to the voter requesting an updated signature. If there is no response from the voter, a third review by management staff is conducted. That includes myself. I actually look through all of those envelopes to make sure I'm looking at all those signatures, see if I find any comparisons. General questions and concerns regarding the validation of election results. That's another topic that I've received a lot of questions about. So first item is logic and accuracy testing. Again, the elections official shall conduct a series of tests to ensure that every device used to tabulate ballots accurately records each vote. This test shall conform to the voting procedures for specific voting systems as adopted by the California Secretary of State. Test ballots are processed and results are tallied to verify voters' intent and selection. These tests are designed to evaluate the performance of the voting system, assuring voters that their choices will be accurately recorded. Again, this process is open at the ROV office to the public. The test for the upcoming November 5th, 2024 general election will take place on October 2nd at 10 a.m. So I encourage anybody that's interested to please do attend this very important function. As far as ballot processing, we do conduct a 1% manual tally process. This is undertaken as part of the post-election auditing process to guarantee the accuracy and integrity of the results. This involves a hand count inspection and counting of official ballots from randomly selected precincts. For the November 2024 election, there will be over 1,200 voting precincts that we will be selecting from. These precincts are randomly chosen from across Riverside County as required by law, and a crucial step in verifying the accuracy of machine tabulated results is this. This process is open to the public to view at any time during the process starting November 7th. That's 2 days after Election Day, on a Thursday. Ballot tabulation and ballots counted. I wanted to bring this information, which again is very important, to determine what it is that we're looking at and or how we determine what a good ballot is. Ballots are considered returned once they have passed a signature verification and are marked as good. Only ballots which have successfully gone through signature verification with a good disposition are opened and counted. I want to highlight that. Only ballots that again have successfully gone through signature verification with a good disposition are opened and counted. It is important to note not all ballots in the ROV's possession make it through signature verification due to issues like being spoiled, challenged, voided, or surrendered. Spoiled ballots are those that are damaged or are marked spoiled by a voter. Challenged ballots are, an example is a voter's signature is missing or does not match the profile in our election management database. Voided are those ballots that are invalidated by elections officials due to specific errors. It is reviewed, but it is not counted, and we also do not track those ballots. Surrendered, voter returns the ballot without voting. It is reviewed, but again not counted or tracked. The number of returned ballots may differ slightly from the number of tabulated ballots. So again, I want to make that highlight. Variances can occur. At time to time, we do have data entry errors that can happen. Again, we have humans working on most of these processes. Prior election ballots coming in from previous elections, and empty or misidentified envelopes. Many times we receive envelopes with, I remember, $800 in one of the envelopes, somebody's rent instead of their ballot. So those things do happen. You have an envelope, but you have no ballot. So what do you count? You can't count anything. You can only give credit to the voter for sending it back to us, but there's nothing there. The June 4th, 2024 election, I'd like to touch a little bit upon how we do our auditing. Again, I'd like to point out that when ballots are coming back from the USPS, when they're coming back from vote centers, when they're coming back from our ballot drop-off sites, I call those raw ballots. In other words, they have not gone through a signature verification process. There's still a lot of sorting that needs to take place because within those group of ballots, there's going to be ballots, again, that are spoiled, as I pointed out in this previous slide, challenged, voided, or surrendered. Again, there will be ballots in there where the voter forgot to sign the envelope, where we will send a cure letter to that voter. Or simply when it goes to signature verification, the signature just did not have the necessary or required characteristics for us to be able to proceed in making that ballot good. So during the June 4th, 2024 election, we did have an accounting of all those ballots, and the way what we do as far as our audit is we're looking at the vote by mail ballots returned from drop-off locations, the vote by mail ballots, and vote center and in person, and also vote center drop-off. What's important to note here is we run reports from our election management system to be able to see these numbers, and we actually dive further than just looking at the number. We're looking at this data by precinct. And what we're comparing is all good ballots that came into our office and were made good in the system. We're taking that data, and then we're comparing it against the results. Before I even do the first election results update to the public, I'm reviewing this information to make sure that the number of ballots that were made good equal the number of ballots on those reports that I'm reporting out on election night and the days after election night. For the June 4th, 2024 election, so we had vote by mail returned of 8,977, total drop-off ballots of 404, USPS mailed ballots 6,846, and vote center drop-off of 1,727 ballots. Again, we also had vote center in person, which is that blue category, 705, and then conditional voter registration, a total of 41 of those ballots. Total ballots returned according to the results report that was reported for this election was 9,723. Total ballots cast was 9,722. There was a difference of 1. Percentage difference is less than 0.0103%. Again, this is where I go back to point out that, yes, there may be errors when humans are touching this, and that's what we believe happened here is more than likely one of the envelopes was not accounted for, and or it could have been really a myriad of different situations that could have taken place there. General questions and concerns regarding reporting voting irregularities to law enforcement. I do want to point out that Riverside ROV reports any irregularities to law enforcement authorities as soon as we become aware of them. I'm going to have County Council again go through the election legal hierarchy, and I'll just turn it over to County Council.
Thank you, Art. Taking 1 second to go back to, the ROV can only report what it knows about. So one of the things that we would charge the public with is if you see something, say something. Let the ROV know, report it directly to law enforcement so that the proper investigation can be undertaken. So the election legal hierarchy is laid out starting with Elections Code 10, which states that the California Secretary of State is the chief elections officer for the entire state of California. Each of the registrar of voters are county clerks, depending upon the size of the county, and all of those 58 counties function as a ministerial and administrative arm under the California Secretary of State with the united goal of carrying out elections. Administrative and ministerial is the key section there. That doesn't mean that the registrar of voters exercises any discretion. They simply go down the checklist of their legal requirements under the Elections Code, under the Code of Regulations, both of which have been promulgated in compliance with federal law to make sure that each of those steps have been undertaken and then the results are recorded and finally reported, which in turn means that the role of the Board of Supervisors is very limited. The board was apprised of this recently. And specifically, it's set out in the Elections Code that the Board of Supervisors receives a certified statement of the results of the election from the ROV. The Board of Supervisors does not certify the election. Certification of the election is handled by the registrar of voters or a county clerk who acts as a function, an ministerial and administrative arm of the Secretary of State. The board declares that the elected and nominated people for each office have been voted in based on the results under its jurisdiction, which is Elections Code section 15400. To be clear, the election certification is simply a statement of the results of the election. Reference is Elections Code 15372. That ministerial list, that checklist that I just mentioned, is set forth in 15302. The registrar of voters does not exercise any discretion, and therefore there's no such thing as a provisional certification. Either the election, as determined by the elections official, the registrar of voters, makes a determination that each of those checkboxes have been fulfilled or not. But it's the ROV's job to make sure that they are, and then to send on a report of what occurred to the Board of Supervisors, so the Board of Supervisors can then make the declaration of elected or nominated officers to each office within their jurisdiction in accordance with the election code.
Very good. So general questions and concerns regarding the ROV implementing voting enhancement. So I'd like to share that the County of Riverside Register of Voters continuously seeks ways to enhance the voter process, and that's a given. Over the past 10 months, the following enhancements have been implemented, and that includes in-person hands-on training for our election officers. During the pandemic, we had gone to doing Zoom trainings. However, we're finding that more hands-on is requested, so we're most definitely enhancing our in-person training. So we'll be in various cities providing that additional training. That training will cover much of the completing documentation during the election process. That includes closing documents, that includes any receipts, anything that's coming back to us. So we'll be focusing on that. Comprehensive new seal log documentation. I know that there were concerns about the documentation of seals for our ballot scanners in addition to the USPS process. So again, we're developing new seals logs and we're implementing better seals logs that are much easier to understand and more inclusive of additional information requested. We've upgraded the facility for better access, visibility, transparency, and accuracy. So again, we've demolished walls at the ROV office to create additional space so that we were able to hire more folks to assist with the processing, everything from opening, staging, counting official ballots to signature verification, also adjudication of ballots, and also duplication of ballots. So definitely have increased our space, but also allows for additional observation or anybody that's wanting to observe. We now have more space to allow for meaningful observation. We've expanded our countywide outreach and education efforts. Again, we are going above and beyond with outreach, bringing our voting equipment, any information we can bring to the community to provide voter education is on our top of our list. So we're also working on hiring an elections coordinator that will be focused specifically on our voter education and outreach efforts. Live streaming of the electoral process. I've actually enhanced the live streaming from just doing it from the ballot counting room. I'm actually placing live streaming on our website, which will allow folks to be able to see live streaming of signature verification. They'll be able to see live streaming of adjudication of ballots, duplication of ballots, our ballot scanning process and counting. Also our ballot signature verification equipment, warehouse logic and accuracy, our voting technology when it's going through that process, which includes our ballot marking devices. It also includes our ballot on-demand systems, and it also includes our ballot scanners. That process will be live streamed. In addition to opening of ballots, just simply opening and staging those ballots. All of those processes to get an effort for transparency and visibility by anybody that wishes to go on our website and view. Media and observer tours. For the very first time, we've opened our office for the media to come out and really learn about what we do at the office. Mainly, it's we show them signature verification, we show them all the different processes, opening a ballot, and just really the life of the ballot. We also show them the voting technology so that they're aware of what's there, and then allow both the media and our observer constituents to be able to ask any questions of us if there are any during those tours. Additional enhancements, we've increased staffing levels. The Registrar of Voters in Riverside County was an office with 34 staff members. Where all other counties throughout the state of California, our size, they had 60, 70 staff members. We're now at about 52 full-time staff members. So again, thanks to our Board of Supervisors and our Executive Office, we've been able to increase staffing levels because we're also adding a night shift. For the very first time in November of 2024, we're actually starting the night shift 2 weeks before, and we're going to do it through certification, and our hope is to be able to certify before December 5th, but we're definitely going to work towards that to make sure that everything is accurately counted and accurately reported. We've also enhanced security features. We're adding more security to the facility in addition to a security gate, additional security guards, in addition to a security that will be stationed at our entrance so that, again, there is more security for any processes, as we do share a building with another county office. So we will have that security implemented this November 2024. We've also worked in our in-house ballot design. Our ballot vendor was responsible for creating a ballot for us. Now we're doing that in-house as of November of 2023. And again, we did that successfully on March 5th, 2024, and we've done the same thing for this upcoming November. Also, we hired 2 election experts with registrar of voters and election official experience available for consultation so that, again, we can work towards opportunities for growth and many, many more and better things here in Riverside County. We worked with the Language Accessibility Advisory Committee and the Voting Accessibility Advisory Committee. These committees have been very active within our organization, providing advice or any suggestions on ways to improve not only language services under the Language Accessibility Advisory Committee, but outreach opportunities, as well as any Voting Accessibility Advisory Committee for voters with any disabilities, and again, being able to make voting a much, much better experience for them. With that, again, this ends my presentation. Again, I encourage anyone who does have any suggestions or questions or simply wants to communicate with us. You have many ways of doing so: by phone, on our website, by mail, in person, you name it. So again, thank you so much for the opportunity. I'd like to open up the space for any questions from the ad hoc.
My first question is, where is the $800?
We actually, luckily, the envelope had the voter information, so we were able to reach out to the voter. And they said it was my rent money.
That's why you knew it was rent money.
Yeah, we did return it.
Manny, do you want to begin?
I don't have any set of questions now.
Oh, I do, Art. Just some specific on what you talked about, I have other questions, but I think our presentation may cover some of the questions that I had. Okay. Going back to this is for legal counsel. The voting machines, I know this is a problem and people just have still telling us to get rid of Dominion. Can you tell us what our options are? Because it seems to be a question.
Supervisor, if I may. As Ross is approaching the podium there, I just want to say that given the great importance of elections, I have mobilized our legal team. As you can see here, you're familiar with Ross Trendle, that's the Chief Assistant County Counsel. We also have Steph Nelson as well, but in addition, we also have Dale Larson in the audience. Dale is an attorney who is an expert in election law. Dale is a law partner at the law firm of Stromwash and Butcher. He recently successfully defended the election lawsuit with Indian Wells. Dale has also taught at UCLA Law School. So the legal team is here to provide the full support and answer the question you all may have. Thank you. Go ahead, Ross.
Thank you, County Counsel Tran. To answer your question, Supervisor, the current contract with Dominion goes through, I believe, 2029? I'm sorry, 2028. So if to move away from Dominion voting systems, we would have to terminate that contract and then go through the process of considering whether to adopt or contract with another provider of election systems or to install some type of different process that otherwise complies with state and federal law and local regulations.
But what are our options? We just can't go out and buy a voting machine, correct?
That's correct. There are significant standards that are promulgated by the Secretary of State on what those systems have to do and how they have to do it to ensure that the counts are accurate, to report the most accurate results possible.
Don't they certify the machines?
That's correct, they do. And the Secretary of State has voting system guidelines. Those were cited in the legal portion of the presentation provided today. One of the questions that came up was the 1 in 125,000 standard. The answer to that came from the Voting System Standards Guideline, which is put out by the Secretary of State. Any system, before it can go into use, has to go through that process at the Secretary of State's level. Any system that's implemented by any county has to be approved by the Secretary of State.
So how many do we have to choose from?
It depends on the number of vendors right now. I think there are 4 that are in
Okay.
the field right
And one
now.
of those is LA, right?
LA has its own proprietary system.
Okay.
Just very quickly as a follow-up to the question is there any evidence, do we have anything that we could take a look at as far as Dominion, the system actually not working
No,
in any county in the state of California?
no.
Is Dominion being used anywhere in the United States?
Yes, it's the predominant provider of voting systems.
Anywhere in the United States, there's no example whatsoever of any breakdown or fraud or system failure within Dominion.
No systemic fraud, breakdown of Dominion systems. There was a situation in the state of Georgia in federal court where an expert from, I believe, the University of Michigan, Mr. Halderman, he was retained as an expert in the context of that specific litigation challenge. He was provided with the Dominion voting systems machine. He was given an extensive period of time. He was assisted by Dominion engineers on how to access that machine. And after being able to handle that, he developed a very extensive protocol to try and access the software on that machine. But it's under a very specific set of circumstances, and it's not something that can be easily replicated by any means in person without any member of the ROV, any member of law enforcement who happens to be present at a voting center, without them running to stop that type of an intrusion. Also, the machines are not connected to the internet, and there is no credible evidence that they are or ever have been.
And there's no credible evidence of them connected to the internet throughout the state of California or the county of Riverside or throughout the United States?
With respect to the machines that do the tabulations, or anything? Tabulations are not, thank you. And nothing in the state of California either.
Okay, so let's say we just didn't like Dominion for the sake of just not liking it then, even though this might be the case. You're saying that there's 3 or 4 other examples or systems that actually do exist. Which are the others that are being used and where? I'm just kind of trying to understand which system is, besides Dominion, are people preferring to use?
I'm not aware of what the market share is for each of the predominant providers. Just in California, Dominion is the predominant one. I think the Registrar of Voters probably has that information on what the other systems available are, but also note that LA County has its own internal proprietary system.
And then that one, for example, for LA County, you might know the answer, you might not. Has there been any example or reference to any type of fraud or system failure with that system?
Not that I'm aware of. Art?
Aware of that. Sorry, Supervisor, I'm not aware of that either. To answer the question regarding the systems that are available, ES&S, which is Election Systems and Software, is one of those systems that's available. The other one is, of course, Dominion, and we also have Hart InterCivic, and of course, the LA system, which again, we cannot purchase. That's their own internal homegrown system.
I guess this will be my last question. I'm just wondering, so out of all these systems, for example, and if not Dominion, what is the system that people are actually asking for folks to use or requesting to be used? Because if there's only 4 or 5, I'm just trying to understand what's next in line.
The information that we have is that there is no favored second runner-up or first runner-up. The criticisms that are levied are the simple use of electronic systems in general. And to that end, the Secretary of State has promulgated the detailed regulations and guidelines that it has, consistent with HAVA, to be able to certify whatever system may come up as an option. So if the system is contemplated for use, it has to go through that certification process first. And the criticisms are really, we shouldn't use electronic voting because we don't know what's inside the box.
Okay, thank you.
Just one more question on the machines. In my conversations, I know there was a controversial conversation about Dominion's contract says that we can't open the machines and look at them. Isn't that the certification from the state that says we can't?
That's correct. There's no specific prohibition within the contract that says you cannot open up the machine. That was one of the issues the county council researched in looking at the contract. The concern comes into play because these machines have been certified as a system. Once one is opened, it now calls into question the status of the certification of the entire system generally and that component of the system specifically. We don't know at this point if we would have to go through the entire certification again for the entire system or simply have that machine recertified under some abbreviated procedure. Don't know if that would disqualify the use of the entire Dominion voting system across the county, taking it all out of service, whether we'd have to take just that one machine out of service. It raises a lot of very particular questions that, frankly, we would have to work with the Secretary of State to work out. But there is no specific prohibition in the contract, no.
Without finding the numbers, I know that when we talked about the Voters Act, whichever one that put these machines forward because of the hanging chads back in 19, whatever it was.
It was Help America Vote Act in 2002.
Okay. And part of that was the hanging chad. Some people would rather have us hand count ballots. Was there a challenge with hand counting ballots?
The challenge with hand counting ballots depends on the scale of the election. And the scale of the elections is determined by the number of registered voters that you have, the number of offices that you have, the number of state and local propositions or measures that you might have. So in a county like Riverside County with 1.34 million registered voters, for every ballot, assuming multiple federal, state, local offices, local measures, and state propositions, even if you took 30 seconds to review by hand count every ballot, and assuming a return rate of 30%, it would take well over 3 to 4 months just to count them.
Well, I
For the
guess
entire election.
the entire election, right? Okay. No, I know it's overwhelming because I have gone up to CSAC and with this group really asking a lot of good questions, and that was one thing that we talked about at CSAC with all the other counties, is the fact of one of the smaller counties said that they took it on, but there was more errors on hand counting. I don't know, I think it's exactly what you were saying, is because you have so many different individual ballots that had different information.
That's the intention of the machines, is to decrease the number of human errors.
So that was a smaller county as well.
It was a very small county, yeah. So, we may have more later, because I'm sure with the next presentation, that they're going to spike some more questions, so. Greg, it's your show.
Well, thanks for having us here today. And when I talk about our county, I say that we really have a kind of a peculiar county in that you guys do listen. You've been very respectful. And I think this conversation is moving forward. I appreciate Ross. One thing where Mim and Ross and I are all going to have common ground is on the law. So I do dispute maybe a little bit with Ross's quoting of HAVA, but we can work that out later. But how I'm going to begin is common ground, because our common ground is the law. So and I'm going to time myself. So here's our constitutional guarantee. We can all agree with the Constitution. The United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a Republican form of government. We all agree with that. And a Republican form of government is where we, the people, get to choose our representatives. Okay, this should go pretty fast. So no right is more precious in a free country than that of having a voice in the election of those who make the laws under which we as good citizens must live. Other rights, even the most basic, are illusory if the right to vote is undermined. Of course, that's our concern. If our right to vote is undermined, then we really are not choosing our representatives. And a right of suffrage, that's the right to vote, can be denied by a debasement or dilution of the weight of a citizen's vote just as effectively as by only prohibiting the free exercise of the franchise. So our right to vote can be eliminated if fraudulent votes come into the system and dilute our vote. And that's not coming up on my side.
Bring it back up.
And that's Reynolds v. Sims 377 U.S. 533. These are all Supreme Court decisions, so this establishes federal law. So that's the law, and that's where we're all going to have common ground. We agree that we need a Republican form of government, and in a Republican form of government, elections are very simple. You've got voters, votes, and count. That's all there are. Voters must be eligible. Voters must be eligible, votes must be legal, and count must be accurate. That's all there is, and that's what we're looking at. The challenge for Art is he's running our election system, and the registrar must obey the law. It's just like in any system, you have certain laws that govern the system. So this is the law that we see that Art must obey that governs our election system, and Ross has kind of alluded to this too. Voter rolls must be accurate. Only eligible voters can vote. That's where the illegal alien issue comes in, and people that are dead, and that's why the voter roll needs to be accurate. System must be highly accurate. Only 1 out of 125,000 ballots in question. I think that is clearly in the Help America Vote Act, but Ross and I can debate that later. And ballots cast must equal ballots counted. That's even in the California Election Code 13. That's part of the certification process in California, is you got to balance the two. 2 minutes. And lastly, Art is the one that guards our elections. That's why he has such a heavy responsibility. Congress seeks to guard the election of members of Congress against any possible unfairness by compelling everyone involved, that's really the ROV, in holding the election to a strict and scrupulous observance of every duty devolved around him by so engaged. The evil intent consists in disobedience to the law. That's why the law is so important. Art has to meticulously follow the law. It's like a basketball game. You can't go one way or the other. You just got to follow the rules. And that's why we're starting with the law. And here is the issue we are going to discuss. Is our election system lawful, transparent, and trustworthy? And that, I think Supervisor Spiegel has said that many times. You know, that's where we're on common ground. Is our election system lawful, transparent, and trustworthy? What are the problems and what are the solutions? And that's my introduction. And Tim is going to come up next.
You want these?
Very quickly, sir. Yes. I appreciate your point, but there in that last point it said transparent and trustworthy.
Yes.
And earlier you provided slides that indicated, for example, legal, accurate. I'm not claiming that I wish to be not transparent or trustworthy, but I didn't see that in the language that you used.
In which one?
And any of the language that you provided from the Constitution or whatever points you were making. Obviously, we want to be transparent. Obviously, we want to be trustworthy.
Well, transparency is what proves integrity. You know, if you're doing the right thing, you're going to be transparent. It's what Art many times is referred to. That's why I appreciate Art starting with He's committed to transparency and accuracy, and that's kind of how he proves his point. He says, hey, come in and watch.
So we're going
transparent."
further and beyond than with that. I guess that's my
sorry.
point.
I don't think going,
Because it's not, in the points that you made right now, for example, those slides, I saw all the other concepts, words that were used, legal, accurate, you said diluted,
yeah,
undermined, strict, scrupulous, but there was not one reference to transparency or trustworthy. But you're saying that Art is stating that up front.
Art's saying that, and I think the Constitution implies an honest election.
Implies.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Thank you.
Just so everybody knows, we stop the clock when we stop and ask a question, okay?
Okay, appreciate that.
Just, yeah, yeah, people are freaking out. And we even started late, so we're only at 43 minutes left. So somehow you only get 2 minutes that you've spent.
Thank you. Appreciate the clock up here, too.
Okay, I just want to make sure that everyone who wanted to speak publicly got a card. I appreciate the gentleman going around handing out the cards, but there is one available, guys, if you need one. So you can start the timer, Karen, if you like. So my role today is to talk about some of the specific legal problems that we see with the Riverside County election system. And I'm going to do something right now, and this is not a stunt. I tested this, and I am doing this in order to show to the public, and I want to make it clear that in my presentation today, I'm mostly going to look at the camera up there because I'm mainly talking to the people behind me. And I received in the mail a change of address form saying that possibly I moved and would I like to fix my registration. So I'm going to go ahead and put this up here, if you could help me. There's no identifying information on here. The reason, you got it? The reason I'm putting it up there is because I am going to call the phone number that is on this card, and I'm going to read it out, okay? And it doesn't work. So we're going to hear an error message, and this went out by our registrar to people to correct their issues. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and dial 1. Everyone see this? Can everyone see this phone number? Can we zoom this in? I just want to make clear that I'm not going to dial the wrong number or do some kind of stunt here. Okay? There we go. Okay. Everyone can see this? Okay, I could put my phone on here. I'll do that in a minute. 1-800-773-86.
Hi, I was just verifying that that number's correct. This is the Register of Voters?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you very much. I just dialed it.
Okay, so I'm gonna do that. I think you just got an error message I heard on your phone.
That was my fault.
That was his. I just got a person, live person.
Okay.
I'll put it to the mic and do it again.
I'm just, if this is correct, okay, if this is correct and they answer the phone, great. But I'm trying to demonstrate that this is how we the people.
So this is what I'm getting.
Okay, so here's my phone number, okay, now. I'll put it on speaker.
To Verizon Wireless, your call cannot be completed as dialed. Please check the number and dial again. Announcement for welcome.
Okay, so there's an issue with this card. There's an issue. I don't know what it is, and I imagine our registrar will fix it, but this is just how we, and I'll look up here, this is how we the people trying to check the processes in our own county and not just take people's word for it. Okay, that's all that I was trying to do. It's not to call out anyone and make them look bad. I'm sure this can easily be corrected, and I'm sure, given this public forum, that it will be corrected, okay?
I'm going to dial it one more time.
Sure.
Because it did that weird noise for me. And I don't know if I'm
Okay,
dialing it
is this the
correctly.
Register of Voters? Wait, where's? Can you repeat that? What number am I getting?
This is the Registrar of Voters.
Okay,
Okay, thank you very much.
what's the number though, Tim?
It's 1-800
Tell your staff I'm sorry.
1-800-773-8683.
1-800-773-8683.
Okay.
Let me see your phone.
I don't know, that's maybe I haven't paid my bill.
Well, I paid my bill.
Let me try a different, let me
That
try,
is really weird.
let me try my other line. My other phone.
Who do you have?
Well, how
I'm
many
gonna try
people
my
in this
other
room
line.
have Verizon like I do?
I have
okay.
Verizon.
Okay. Well, anyway,
I don't know what that's.
thank you for taking it seriously, both of you, and trying
No,
to dial the number.
That bothers me more than anything else, if
Yeah.
we made an error.
Yeah.
Okay, this one's working, so T-Mobile, I gotta pay my bill.
Okay, but there's some issue here, and I'm sure that it will get resolved so that all the people, and there are thousands of them in our county that receive this card, will have the correct phone number.
Okay, push the timer now.
That's really odd.
So I don't know how you're gonna do that, Art, because what if people have tried to call in and they get this error message, and now their ballot, they're not gonna receive it, it's delayed, it just causes confusion for the election
But
integrity
there's
of our
also,
county.
if they can't, there's the internet.
There is, but
Okay,
it's
all I
on
know is
here.
my first, all
Yeah,
the times I
yeah,
tried.
okay.
I didn't set it up, honest.
I didn't either, so yeah. Okay, let's continue. Thank you for your help, supervisors, with that. Okay, so we the people believe that there is a serious problem with our voter rolls not currently being accurate. And I appreciate the ROV and speaking about that and trying to address that. What we want is for him to show his work to us, the concerned citizens, not just in this forum where he gets to talk for 30 or 40 minutes and say that everything's fine and he's looked at it, but actually to let us look at the numbers that he is telling us are true. And I appreciate his efforts to increase the transparency with his office very much. So I hope that he will offer us, he will say, hey guys, come to my office. I will show you these numbers, rather than us always having to say, can we please have this? Can we file some record request? We can't find it. It's in the archives. I'm not sure we can get it. He can just say, hey, you guys have concerns. I have the answers. I'm the expert. So let me show you exactly, show your work. When we're dealing with numbers, when you're dealing with math in math class, you say to the students, it doesn't matter what the answer is at the bottom unless you showed your work and all your work was correct. So that's what we would like. And I'll just point out a couple of things. There are approximately 1.3 million ballots mailed out in Riverside County. And that number on the voter rolls, the list of everything that is mailed out, as far as we know, it doesn't seem to move. Nobody tells us the specific number. Okay, this year we sent out 1.25. This year we sent out 1.37. They just give us these approximations. We get the same number like over and over. So to us, it doesn't look like the number of the voter roll is being adjusted, corrected. We can see in the news all these reports about people moving out of California and all this, and we're just like, oh, it looks to us, what you're telling us is there's no changes. So show us the work. Now, I'm going to put up one other slide here. And this graphic is for the public, and I think we need to zoom it out now. Thank you. And this is in regard to the 2022 midterm elections. Now, the numbers on this sheet are very much contested by the ROV, and I just want to go on record to say that's fine. We are glad that he contests this, but I want the public to understand what we are trying to do here. We have tried to keep track of the number of mail-in ballots that came from the post office and went to the ROV. We have tried to keep track of the number of ballots that were voted in person and were transported from the precincts to the ROV office. And we have done our best with people watching and asking for tabulation receipts ad nauseum trying to figure all of this out. And when the numbers that we have, we show the number of ballots that came into the system. You can see on the left side of the screen those two boxes, mail-in or in person. We come up with a grand total, and then we come over here on the right side of the graphic, and you see how they were counted. And so we also ask for the tabulation receipts and everything to show how it was counted. And when we do the math, we come out with scary, frightening numbers, right? What? Okay, scary, frightening numbers like this, where we have 34,000 extra mail-in ballots counted and 19,453 ballots less in the in-person category. Like, that's just mind-blowing. And none of us want that to be true, and none of us really believe our own numbers. But we know that we've spent hundreds of hours, like, poring over this stuff and trying to figure it out. And the registrar just says, well, you must not have the right numbers. I don't know where you got those numbers. These are the real numbers. He shows us a total with we can't see the sheets. We can't see any of the backup documentation of show your work. So that's how the frustration rises in the public community. And that graphic that I showed, could you show that one more time? Is it on the screen up there? That graphic, that expresses very clearly why, supervisors, you have all these people exercised for all of this time and working so hard on that. So I will leave it there.
All right, so just real quick, sir, if you don't mind, and Tim, thank you. So let's maybe, is there a time? Well, we'll make the time. Let's figure this out. Yeah, this is part. Are the voter rolls being adjusted? And if they are, how? And why not put together a graph that demonstrates over the course of years, maybe 3 to 5 years, how they've been adjusted so that folks like Tim can see that for themselves? Are we not doing that? And if not, I suggest we should.
It's not Tim's challenge.
No, yes, it is. That's one of them. Okay, there's 3 issues that I caught. That's one. And you let me know if that's possible or not, okay? I'm just going to put them out there. The other one is to allow people to be part of the process from the very beginning. In other words, invite people in. I understand that we do that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm off. At what point in time do we invite people in? Is it legal or illegal? Is it possible, impossible? But let's address that. And then the third, the tabulation receipts. Why is there a difference? And I think it's important that if folks are invited in, and if voter rolls are being adjusted and demonstrated by the numbers, then maybe potentially we can deal as well with the tabulation receipts when an advocate is demonstrating one number versus our registrar of voters demonstrating a different number. Why such a significant difference? So those 3 points right there, I think need to be addressed some way, somehow in the conversation moving forward today. Okay, you don't have to answer that right now if you don't have a response now.
No problem. Good afternoon, and a big thank you for holding this meeting so we can drill down and really present some informative data. Thank you, sir. Just a side note, on Tim's graphic where we had 30,000 plus votes in the 2022 primary and general, there were 4 responses from the ROV, and none of them really answered the question. And so that's really how we got here. So thank God for Yvette. She didn't let this go. And it took 6 months just to get those 4 responses. So that's kind of the trigger for some of the anxiety that you're hearing today. I want to talk about voter rolls. the voter rolls are not accurate, and regardless of the work that the ROV is doing, they haven't done enough, and they haven't done it quickly enough. There was a contrast analysis done. It compared the 2016 votes to the 2020 votes. And when you looked at that, what we found was that the votes cast grew by 38% in Riverside between 2016 and 2020. So let that sink in. Votes cast went up by 38%, population only went up by 5%. That tells you that your voter rolls are inflated. The first one.
Don't worry, they are. Okay,
this
this is the population, okay?
I know many people that are.
So
Some
we
people-
have registered voters,
Right,
2016 to 2020.
but that's population, not registered voters.
I can't see that.
Can you put slide? That is your population.
Okay, explain yourself,
The-
please.
What I'm saying is, you may only have grown by 5.14%, but you've got more people voting. So that has, population will not have anything to do with the differences of the voters.
More people want to decide to vote.
You have some number of registered voters in 2016, and that grew between 2016 and 2020 by 38%. I got a whole bunch more registered. But the number of people in the county only grew by 5%, and some of that 5% can't even vote because they're not 18.
There's
So
not a correlation, unless we were at maxed out at a population at 2.4, whatever it was in 2016, okay? We only have 1.3 million voters? So you can grow your voter.
Yeah.
You can grow the number of voters.
absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
It has no correlation to your population unless we've maxed out at the total population all being registered. Then there could be a question of how we grew. But when you have 1 million people who weren't registered or voted,
Right.
you have a,
Of course it can grow.
yeah.
There's a paper that goes with this that talks to how votes changed between 2016 and 2020 across all 50 states. And what they're showing is that you registered more people to vote out of your population that you have, but did it actually make sense? Does it make sense that in a 4-year period, I grew my voter rolls by 38%
Yeah.
in 4 years?
You want that.
Okay, so
You
here's
want
what we'll
that.
do. Here's what we'll do. I'll send you this contrast analysis again, because you've already got it, and go ahead and read it, and then look at the big picture. What you'll see these authors contend is that these changes don't logically make sense. And when you look at California compared to all the other 50 states, our registrations grew the biggest of all the 50 states by a large margin. And so it doesn't say there's illegalities here. What it says is that we need to explore why the voter rolls grew by so much in that time period.
That's fair, but let me just tell you, as an individual who runs for office, and actually as well goes out and registers people, in my precinct alone, for example, I've seen the increase grow and grow and grow and grow over the course of time because I want people to vote. And quite frankly, you know, for certain folks that I believe in or what have you, it took the same population's there in that same precinct. Maybe some folks have left, maybe some folks have come, but it's pretty much the same. The voter registration rolls have increased quite a bit over the course of years. Why? Because we're having voter registration drives in that specific
But
precinct.
there's
I
a key,
agree,
there's
there's
a
a-
key factor you're not listening to. During that time frame is when they instituted every voter gets a ballot. So we had a whole lot of extra registrations of voters. There was such a tremendous push in 18, 19.
I
into
agree.
20.
There's a
And so
huge
you
push.
can have, that's what I'm saying, your population number really doesn't correlate until such time you exceed our 2.4 million and we have more voters in population. But because we had such a low voter turnout, and you've seen what's happened in California last
We're not talking turnout here, we're just talking registrations.
No, that's what I'm saying. But I'm saying people have been very, there's been such turmoil, not turnout, turmoil, in what's going on in California. You know that.
The push to get voters registered has been extensive. The federal government mandated every single agency to go register people. And so, yes, registrations went up. But when you compare over the 50 states how California looks to the others, we're very abnormal. So I invite you to just go read the paper. The point was that,
Send
the
it
point
again.
is that the voter rolls are getting
I
elevated.
have notebooks from you guys, so send me that one separately so I can look at it, because that's, you've tweaked my curiosity on that one.
Yep, the next one.
Okay, let's
I'll
start
send you that.
again. It's gonna be a long 45
So
minutes.
I've got a host of data, and the point I'm trying to make is that the voter rolls have been inflated. There's data to suggest, very solid data to suggest that there's errors and there's more to be done. There's an outfit called United Sovereign Americans. They're a 501c4. They're filing suits in different states claiming that elections are not being run per law. And what they found in California, 2.7 million votes cast by ineligible or uncertain registrations. Riverside, if we're just average, we're 6% of California. That would be 166,000 uncertain registrations. That's a huge number. If we were if we were twice as good as the other counties, it's still a very big number. Transparency Foundation, 9% of households received an erroneous ballot, and in 17% uncured ballots, the voter said they didn't even get a ballot, but yet there was one. So there's 313,000 uncertain registrants. And then the Heritage Foundation says 10% of all the illegals that have shown up in the last 4 years, they've claimed in an audit or a survey that they've registered to vote. So we've got big numbers in our
But I think
voter registration.
your last sentence is accurate, and that is an issue I have been talking, and I've shared with all of you, to some of our legislature, because a lot of our voting laws are beyond our ability to not follow. So I've talked to our state representatives and our federal, and Congressman Calvert is one that has really been pushing on the fact that California has the DMV registering folks. That shouldn't be happening, because I'm sure they're not standing there saying, show me your ID, because once they're registered, we cannot ask for it in
I
California.
have suggestions that can help mitigate this.
Can you-
Because you're right. The laws in this state are crazy. But I've got some ideas, and I've shared those with Matt and Art, and I want to share them again this morning.
Just very quickly, can you, that first, besides the 10%, you had another number up there? I didn't catch it.
That one.
Where was it?
The ineligible or uncertain voter registration,
Oh, you said
351,000.
Riverside County, okay, 6% votes cast. That's the number I'm looking at.
Yeah, Riverside is 6% of California.
Oh, population-wise, yeah.
Yeah, we're 6%. Let's go to the next one, please. So Art did a real nice job of explaining the Experian data. My impression, I could be wrong, Art or Matt, you can correct me. The ROV sent out the 3 ways to vote postcard prior to getting the Experian data. And that, to me, implies that there's 270,000 addresses, potential addresses, where those cards wouldn't get delivered properly. And if that data from Experian had shown up 3 months earlier, which we had advocated for, then he may not have wasted $137,000 in postage. So all those potentially bad addresses, the cards come back undeliverable, and then per election code 2224, he's got to send out an address verification card, get them fixed, and then send the other postcard again. So the urgency in getting this stuff addressed, I've mentioned it before, and I'm mentioning it again. One thing that we would really like to understand is why Experian couldn't match 270,000 registrants. Thank you. That's something we ought to explore, because there's something in that story there. Is that illegal registrations? We don't know. Ross made a point about the accuracy standard. I have a paper that I'll be happy to share with Ross and share with you. EIPCA, which is a 501c3, and United Sovereign Americans 501c4, they have a team of lawyers, and they're filing suits in a number of states, including California, and they've looked at this accuracy requirement, and that accuracy requirement does apply to the voter rolls. It doesn't make any sense if you just think about it logically that I've got a machine that's got to count 1 in 125,000, only allowed 1 error, and I'm going to put ballots in that could be 5% fraudulent or 10% fraudulent. It just makes no sense. So I've got a paper that these lawyers have used in their lawsuits. I've assembled their claims, and it makes perfect sense that the voter rolls have to be accurate. In our last, or in one of our previous school board elections, the difference between two candidates was 15. In the special election, the difference between yes and no for the recall was only 212. So you got to have the accuracy. And so, what are my recommendations for helping fix this? We've offered our expertise. There's a person on our team that worked for TRW. He understands doing queries and sorting out the data to get at the truth. The one thing that the ROV could do is to go look at the Naturalization Service database and compare that to voters in our database based on other anomalies in the data. One real important thing is ART should have someone that can perform SQL queries to find ineligible registrants based on changes to birthplace, birth date, multiple voter IDs, duplicates, invalid names. There's lots of things in that database that have been identified by these two organizations that demonstrate that the voter rolls are not accurate. So you can't just go look at addresses. So, and there's some other stuff here that we had sent to Matt. Matt sent a reply back to us, which was very nice, and then I sent a reply back to them with some other suggestions, which are listed here. Never got a reply back. So Matt, I'm looking at you. I had sent you an email, I don't know, a couple weeks ago with some of that stuff on it. So take a look and see if some of my suggestions make sense, okay? I think there's things you can do within California law, mail out postcards to improve your accuracy of your database.
If you don't mind, make sure you provide that information to us as well.
Can I give you a copy of what I'm going to show you? So you have it?
Please. We like copies. Thank you.
Personal timer here. Okay. One of the things I do wish is that we had a copy of Art's presentation before we came to you today. I'm not sure if he got a copy of what we were going to talk about, but that would have been nice because then we would be able to kind of, I have even more questions after listening to his presentation, so I kind of wish
Well, those are from sitting and talking and getting the information from Shelby and from Greg. Most of that was what I gave to Art that have already been asked of us.
Right, to see his responses.
Oh, I
Yeah,
see.
I have
Okay.
actually a couple of things I would like to kind of ask more on or just clarify on the other end of that. So I'll try to ad-lib that as I go, but let's start with, I'm going to go a little out of order than the one that Greg gave you because I'm kind of listed a few different times. So let's start with, I'm going to need a little help over here. Let's see. Oh, it's way over there. All right, they're just going to go in order if you want to just do that. Okay. So I've been tasked with just trying to at least get some specific actions that you can do today, although I'm not sure if ballots have already been printed. Can we get an affirmative or
Art,
not
can
yet?
you tell your timeline?
Sure. So the ballot files will be they're already with the vendor, as a matter of fact. So we've been reviewing ballots for several weeks now, and they're on their way.
Okay, well then, I'm not sure how much more I should talk about this first point because before the ballots were printed, I would have hoped that we could have gotten confirmation that the deceased voters were removed, that those 32,500 out of county voters were removed, and then those 26,000 out of California were removed. Can we get clarification if that happened prior to ballots being printed? From the Experian report that he reported on previous.
Is there a response to that, Art? Were they removed? If the numbers came from ROV?
Yeah, the law's very clear, Supervisor, where we're not allowed to remove those individuals from that experience analysis. That's why I went through all the steps of what we're allowed to do, and that's why you have to send all these various notifications to the voter, asking them, have you moved, before we can take them off the, actually, before we can inactivate would be the first step.
So that would be by state law?
That is state law, correct.
Okay.
Okay, and what about the deceased voters? That also needs to be clarified?
That is through state and federal when we receive notification of death, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so then that basically then goes to, if you want to change the page to the next one, I'm just actually referring to his True Trace results from Experian. I will have to say that if that's already been done, the ballots are already gone, then really all this Experian stuff will help for future elections, which is great. It's unfortunate that this was talked about last year and did not get addressed until too late for this most crazy contentious election coming up. And I have pulled public records to see kind of what the delay was about. I'm still waiting on several more internal emails and communication to see if there was any intentional slow rolling, because that would not look good. I'm hoping that there was a lot of good motivation to get that done sooner than later. Unfortunately, we didn't hear much from Art in any of those emails for the first 6 months of the year. So going back to the that handout there, the Experian True Trace. I know Art also mentioned that they do regular updates to their system. They get all that information on a daily basis. And if that were 100% true, then those updates that I received in a public records request from the Secretary of State would have the Riverside County in the green. And I believe I presented that to you previously. I did get the report of all the EMS updates, and there's sometimes thousands that are over 30 days delayed from being corrected. It's like an aging report. I'm not sure I gave that to you, but there are a few counties in California that do get to the green every month. Riverside is always in orange, meaning that they're not quite there. So they're not up to date every day. Okay, next, I'm going to probably skip over the non-deliverable versus undeliverable, primarily because it's a little out of date considering that they're mailed. But I guess the following one on the non-deliverables versus undeliverable, were they able to at least remove those? There were 16,000 on the public records request that I received from the March of 2024. Do you see that on your slide there?
Kind of small.
It's very small. The bottom right corner says 16,000. Can we confirm if those were removed? Anyone?
Does that go back once again to state law, or how does this one work?
Sorry, that goes back to state law, Supervisor. And again, undeliverable ballots, as I explained on one of the on the PowerPoint, there are various types of undeliverable ballots. You have in-state, out-of-state, temporarily away, which we can't do anything with. But again, once we get one of those ballots to come in, we will send notification to the voters. So, and then we inactivate those voters when we actually, as soon as we send that notification.
Yes, I see that there's undeliverable and non-deliverable. Can we get clarification on what the difference is between those?
Go ahead.
It's the same terminology.
It's the same terminology?
It's the way it's categorized in the report you're looking at. Undeliverable, non-deliverable.
So they're not separated anywhere between, what if it goes to an address that doesn't actually exist? How is that categorized versus somebody who's temporarily away?
They are separated out. They're just not tracked that way.
They're just not tracked on this report that I received? Is that what we're saying?
That's
Oh,
correct.
the temporary away, that's what you had said, all ballots except for temporarily away are recorded in the voter file as non-deliverable. Ballots are then processed as a third-party change of address. So temporary away is the forwarded address, halt mail requests. So that's the non-deliverable versus undeliverable.
Right, and I'm looking at the next page. I wish that their reports would distinguish that. I don't understand why they're kind of not apples to apples comparable. That's probably a limit to the system, and so I did have a question about the system that they're getting these reports from. It looks like is that tabulator machine, is this where you run the reports from? That's where I'm curious to know these reports come from. But
The answer to that is no. We do not run these reports from the tabulator reports, or the units. We actually run the reports from the election management system.
the EMS system?
Mhm, the EMS
Okay,
system.
and so if that was up to date, then we would know those are accurate as well. I'll quick touch on the proposed new signature verification. I know that Art also mentioned that he does have some forgery specialists. I'm not sure what the qualification is to do that. If you skip a couple of pages, you'll see that I did pull the actual training that they do get at the ROV. I don't know if this Melinda Calloway or Tiffany Morales is a forgery detection specialist, but they are the ones that did the training back in March to the 38 employees at the ROV. I mentioned that yesterday, that there was about 42 slides, and 2 of them have to do with the actual forgery detection. If you can see, the next page actually shows you what it looks like when they do signature verification, how they do pop up with the past and the current signatures. I'm not sure if you've seen what that looks like, but that's kind of interesting. They get 4 different signatures to view. The first one is the one that comes through the scanner that they scanned immediately when the ballot got there. And the next one is the first signature they compare to see if it's valid or not. Unfortunately, the slides that they presented in the training didn't give them like practice slides to see which ones should be approved or not. I also pulled the Secretary of State's training that he mentioned. That one is only 17 slides. That does talk more about the actual signature, but there's also no samples or a test. Like I said yesterday, there is no quiz to be had by the Secretary of State. I'm just going to rush through the next 3. You can see I did do a lot of digging. I'll send you that if you're interested on the signature verification. And lastly, well, back to the signature verification, I did send you a proposed policy. If you want me to send it to you again, I believe that, I do appreciate that there's some efforts. I just wasn't quite sure exactly what that looks like specifically for this particular election. With only one pair of eyes on it for the first proof and the second proof, it doesn't get to multiple proofs or multiple eyes until it's down to the 3rd or 4th proof. So I think that should be moved up to the front and then kind of negotiated after that. Does that make sense?
I did not understand what you were just saying.
Okay, so the first time the signature comes across is across one person's desk, just one person.
Right, okay, that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
The last thing I want to talk about is I do appreciate you mentioned something about an audit. Unfortunately, I wasn't quite tracking everything you said. I was a little distracted. But I do believe that an audit before the election, if you can propose that to put on an agenda sooner than the election, and that way we know that it's bipartisan. There's no question what other results we get. We have some specific audit actions for after the election. That would enhance our public trust, all kinds of wonderful things that I've outlined for you there. Okay, and that's all I have. You have any questions?
Very thorough, thank you.
Thank you.
And I agree with you. Manny
What
and
part?
I, with everybody.
Well-
And it's not that I'm going to apologize, but I'm just, the urgency
Yeah.
and everything that was going on, Art was new, I was trying to push, but it just was a lot happening, and I see how we can work together and find this information. We're not going to agree on everything. I said that in the very
Totally.
beginning.
Yep.
I mean, perfect example, with Dominion machines. I know that has been an ongoing issue. Do you guys know that Fox News settled with Dominion because of spreading lies?
Yeah.
I mean, that to me is part of our problem. We have both sides,
Totally.
okay? This is, and somebody, I don't remember who it was, talked about how vicious this is. Our society, particularly on a day like today, which we should be unity again, which we were 23 years ago, should be back to that point, to where we can have these discussions, agreeing, disagreeing, okay, let's look up more information, and it's not there. And now, whatever reason Manny are on board and I are on board, and I know it's too late because after today, Art and his team have to focus so we don't
100%,
screw up the next election, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's not, I mean, it's late for this one, but the
Right.
points are well taken.
Absolutely.
And obviously, we're gonna have to make sure that we make an effort, not only an effort, actually follow through on everything you just mentioned.
I appreciate that.
Because I think we can by the next election.
Yeah, I think that by these mail ballots now, we're not as dependent upon the thousands of tabulator machines or whatever that are at the vote centers. We're just really focused primarily on the ROV tabulator machines, those counting, because everything is still in paper. It really is paper. So if we can take advantage of having paper, we have the backup. I'd appreciate counting from paper with the receipts, which is what we haven't done yet. We've been able to show our paper, and they still haven't. Go back to the recall, there's still 93 votes that are unaccounted for, I have to say that. I did get all the spoiled ballots taken care of, and I'm still over. When elections are only won by 10 or 12 votes, even the 93 ballots that I'm still over makes a difference. So, okay, thank you.
All right, just a warning. We have less than 20 minutes left for the presenters, and you've got a couple more presenters. And we have been stopping the clock, because if you could tell, it's already 3:30. We started at 1:30, 2 hours ago, guys. Manny has a hard stop because he's got a funeral, so we are going to have to end at 4:30 like we scheduled.
Hi. Greg has tasked me with explaining the accounting process problems. So that's going to be a real party, right? I did encounter. And the reason why I needed those is that we, in absence of an audit, which we were all asking for, we decided just do an audit ourselves. And so you have to have the numbers, right? You have to have the paperwork in order to do that. And so it was a little bit of a task, and I just want to show you what the task is. And first of all, let me shout out to Elizabeth. She did her best. I mean best. Again and again and again. But if you just can't see the numbers, you just can't see the numbers. Now let me show you. First this one. These are, I'm specifically drilling down to the voter centers. And every day at the voter centers, there is a ballot statement that looks like this that they have to complete. And so it was that information I was trying to draw in, and we have 148 voter centers, and that means you multiply daily all of those numbers. So I was looking at 711 of these. So I got a pretty good sense of it, okay? See, can you see what's on that? Where? Okay, oh, there it is. Okay, this is what it ought to look like. So you can clearly see all the numbers. It gets into the ROV. They can gather it very easily. Anybody requesting it can see it. Okay. Then we had the ones that look like this. Now, you know, they're kind of vague a little bit, but you can still see them. And then, you know where I'm going, don't you? Can you see any numbers on that? And that's not even the worst ones. It was 32% that looked like this. 32%. Do you know how many hours I spent? And at first they said, because I said, well, I can't see these. And they said, well, use your plus sign on your computer. Okay, so anyway, that was difficult, trying to draw out everything. And then I started adding everything up because I'm trying to reconcile here with what the ROV got. And this is what it looked like. The reconciliation. Gonna have to get over here where I can see my own work. Now, what I did is I added, I put down and added exactly what it showed on these statements. I didn't correct any math, and there was a lot of it that should have been corrected, but I just took what it said on the statements. And you can follow it down, and you can completely see that even on the left side, just if you add A and B, you get 29,856. But if you just take an adding machine and add A and B, you don't get that. You get 30,596. So, already you're off on a bad start, and that's what I'm trying to say. There was just multiple mistakes here. And really, Art, I was thrilled to death that you told me that your training is enhanced. And I can tell you, it needs to be. I would even recommend giving them a 4th grade math test, because I can tell you how many times, what is 2 and 2? I thought that was 4, but sometimes it's 3 and 5. And you could imagine then how off your numbers are. I mean, this is the foundational stuff. And so the other thing I was going to suggest, Matt, and I was thrilled to death that you're hiring these people and coming in and all of that, is that once you put them through the training, give them a test. When I was in history and in school, I got a test to see if I had learned what I was taught. And if you don't pass it, don't you need to do it again? And really, there was so many mistakes. And how it affected, remember the law we keep talking about, the number of voters per the number of ballots should match? Exactly. Well, you can see on that first one that I put up, the number, they don't. I mean, 150 times they didn't. I mean, that is just atrocious. And honestly, I don't know how you reconcile this election. I really don't. Because, I don't even think God himself could do it. I mean, you have to have all the numbers. So anyway, those are my recommendations, and let me see if I hit them all. I'm sure you expect your trainees to do the right thing, but maybe if you emphasize it. The expectation is you do it perfect, and we all know there's going to be some mistakes. Okay, the other recommendation I might have for you to consider is, I got a card that says you're going to have more places to vote. After looking at the numbers of the early days of the 11-day vote centers, you should whack that off. There's hardly anything that's coming in until the last 3 or 4 days at the 11 days, and at the 4 days one until, maybe there was, a burst on the 3rd day before, but the day of and the day before. And I'm thinking, the money you're paying for that staff. I mean, there was some of these ballot statements, there was nobody that came in on that day. 0 all the way across, and that wasn't just one of them.
Sharon, let me run that with this. We're
What?
running our time short.
Oh, our time short, I'm sorry. But then let me give you the good news. Some of your voter centers, well, really, I call them my gold star centers because they did everything right. And I went, okay, it can be done. So, okay, I'm going to, did you see her notebook that she brought up? Yes, I did. Okay, well, you're in for it. Thank you, guys.
Okay, this is great. Okay, thank you, Sharon.
Obviously the training should be enhanced, but why not? I'm a former school teacher. We always check for understanding. So why not do some sort of test even at that level? I don't think that's a bad recommendation. I don't know if it's against the law. We'll look at legal counsel for that. But I don't see no reason why we shouldn't, so that we can have accurate numbers.
Absolutely.
And also checking those sheets in each night.
Yeah.
When you first showed me those, I was embarrassed. Okay. So we got the message.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
So I guess this is the arson squad
Are you
putting
the
gas on
cleanup?
it.
You should have been
So-
first.
So, yeah, I'm going to try to be concise. I'm just so thankful for this forum that we can come before you. I'm going to hit on the themes of note included in the assessment review report by Neil Kelly. Laws and regulations versus proactive management, and Appendix B list maintenance review. So those things need to happen. I do know that they did office and warehouse layout, check that box, but identify areas of the organization that are strictly controlled by the elections code and reevaluate operational standards. Create an environment where proactive management is the norm, not the exception. Monitor any change that goes beyond requirements in state or federal law and communicate this to the public. And then in Appendix B, it is contract with third-party data vendors and scrub the existing inactive voter list and subset of active voter lists. Utilize third-party data vendors to search for out-of-state deaths. Partner with academic institutions to conduct independent reviews of voter registration database. Produce detailed reports on voter maintenance activities, blah, blah, blah. It's all in your Neil Kelly report. What I have here on the overhead is that out of 148 vote centers, look at that green, full, true, correct. 11 tab tapes were full, true, and correct. That's 7.43% of our vote centers. That meant that the tab came out that it had the total cast equals total voters, that the polls were closed at the end of the election day, and that 4 election officials at that vote center signed that tab tape. So there were 11 that did it 100% right, that they were the winners. Okay, so that's on the tab tapes. The others are just numbers. It's a fail. And so I don't know about the reconciliation.
Okay, so 11 out of how many, ma'am?
148. So, and I've got the receipts to prove it if you want to go through them, and I have 3 that are not even recording.
We're
So,
gonna give it to Shelby now.
okay, and then there's other data that needs to be reviewed that just standard operating procedure for scanning what documents you're saving for public records access. I got pink forms, I got white forms, I got yellow forms. Not all legible for the vote by mail collection forms. So they were, let me see if I can find my lovely color-coded one. Okay, so that's where we're at, that it was not following procedure. It was, various color coding. And so I have the whole binder, but I can't make you a copy because it's too damn expensive. So, and I'll cite law later. And Shelby, come on up.
Okay, good morning or afternoon. I don't even know what time it is. Okay, first I want to share it, or make it clear that we keep calling them tabulators. Matt made it very clear to me that they're scanners. They just take images. So we just want to make sure that we're all on the same page with that. We don't have the tabulators, we have scanners. Okay, also too, my friends just let me know that they both received, we got 2 people that called me and said we received our ballot information saying that our ballots are going to be coming soon. They moved in 2020 to Nevada. So this is 4 years now. So even after Experian looking at it, we still have NCOA issues. I just want to point those things out because Art's presentations are wonderful, but it's like it's hopeful. We're hoping for those things to happen. I want to discuss what's happening right now and why we have to be so careful to do a
Art,
good election.
Let me answer. If somebody has that they're out of state, they just received that, can you take them off, or do you have to wait for them to tell you they moved?
The law is very specific that I have to wait until they respond to that mailing so that I can make them inactive.
Well, here's
or
the
change
issue.
their-
They've tried to many times to get off the voter rolls. And they haven't voted for 4 years, so why are they still there? It's the updating that they say is coming in daily, but we don't see that happening. Every time I get the voter rolls, it's still the same 1.3 million that's always received. why are the numbers not changing if they're really showing that they've really gotten, these numbers down? So that's my concern. I've been seeing the same things in the rolls since 2020, so those things they're not being changed.
That they've tried to get off the voter roll.
Yes, sir, and then I also had another couple, the gentleman called me, he was really upset last year. I've given this documentation to Detective Merrill, because he and his wife, they tried 4 times to get her off the rolls, and they moved to Arizona. And they even drove out from Arizona to go to the registrar's office and get themselves off the rolls, and they were there for 6 years, still getting the ballots. Sure, the wife, they could not, for whatever reason, couldn't get her off the rolls. But there's a lot of that going on, and that's why we still have the open investigation, and I've shared this information.
Okay, so real quick, if someone is trying to get off the voter roll.
Time.
Yeah,
Sorry.
You're fine.
I'm used to having to talk so fast for 3 minutes, so this is odd for me.
If folks do want to get off the voter roll,
Right.
and they're going through whatever.
Like, what do
time
they
and-
do?
And driving and
Yes,
cost
sir.
to get off it, and they say they come register our voters. Are we missing something here, Art? Why are people not getting off the voter roll then, if they want to get off the voter roll? And they're saying that they have already.
Sure. Thank you so much, Supervisor, for that question. So first of all, there is a cancellation form on our website that voters can go in, print, and complete, and then get to our office. They can email it, take a photo of it, just get it to us. The other way of doing it is calling our office. They can call in, and we will initiate that process
Make sure you have Verizon.
by requesting that they submit a statement requesting to be removed. And I showed that during this afternoon's presentation, the various ways somebody can be canceled from the voter rolls. If they come into the office, again, staff know exactly what they need to do to be able to initiate that process with the voter as well. If you know who this person is, by all means, please send me their information. You can personally send it to me, my email address, and I'll make sure that it gets taken
Well, I never
care of.
get any responses from you or Matt the past couple of months, so that's why I refer things to Detective Merrill, and they did give their ballot. They mailed it to Detective Merrill. They called, they emailed, and they physically took a trip and came down here and were assured that they'd be off the rolls. So
Okay, well,
the things that he's saying, they didn't happen for some.
I'm
But
not
if they
exactly-
didn't fill out the form, giving the ballot to the detectives is gonna get them off the form. I mean, get off the ballot.
Well, they were frustrated because they tried, they called, they filled out what they had to online. They took a trip out here to the ROV. Granted, Rebecca was the one that was working then,
Yeah, at the end of
but
the day,
that's.
we'll take it, we
Okay,
gotta
we'll
move
follow up.
forward.
Okay.
We're running out of time here,
Okay,
guys.
Okay, all the underage voters are listed as active in the rolls. How do we tell if they say, oh, well, they're pending, or they're this, there's supposed to be certain codes that let you know this person's pending, or they're inactive. Everything's active, so I just wanted to remind everyone of that. And the fact that dead people cannot mail back their verification, right? I mean, it's just so silly. Or people that have moved. Other people may be living in that residence and tossed the ballots. That's not a real verification. Now, I just want to cover real quick with the election machines. We are told that those scanners are not to have Chinese parts. In a meeting that we had recently, about a month ago, Ross stated that we're pretty much grandfathered in, and that even if our machines do have the Chinese parts, that we can use them because we had them before those stipulations were put in order, and that's not true. And that's something that we can expand on. And maybe if Ross, if you want to comment on that, I don't know if he's able to. Okay, Jim can come. But still, I just want to confirm that Ross stated that in our last meeting with the election integrity team, I think. Okay, so the first slide, and this is the reason I want to share, we have to have proper elections. Let me read this, okay. The New Hampshire Office of Attorney General has directed the Hampton Town Clerk Shirley Doheny to resign after breaking multiple election laws. This is why we've been trying to bring these things. It's very serious. Our forms, our logs that are filed, the documents have to be filled out correctly. We have to read them. They have to be legible. The Attorney General's office determined Doheny broke several laws, including omitting affidavit envelopes, 79 affidavit ballots, processing 10 to 25 absentee ballots that were not sealed in affidavit envelopes, and improperly signing the activity log for ballot counting devices. Go ahead and put the other one. The chairwoman, Amy Hansen, said, we're committing everything to restoring the faith to our community elections. She also stated, we have not crossed one T or dotted an I. We're all fallible. We're human beings. But that is why procedures are in place to be followed. And they weren't, and it was reported, investigated, and found. And now we will do everything in our power to correct it. I just want you guys to know that is happening in one of the counties in our state, because, or not in our state, but in another state, because these are election violations. They're very serious, and that's why we've been trying to bring it to you guys, to get you guys to see all these things. Another thing, when we talk about the training, Art, slide 3, Art didn't try to hire temporary people till January or till the end of July. That means these individuals only have 8 weeks to be trained before the ballots begin coming in. So we need to really make sure that these people are trained, because the logs are not being filled out. How are these people in 8 weeks' time going to know? Part of the requirements are to share the laws and codes with others. Oh, okay, I'm going.
Tim's gonna need 3 minutes.
Okay. Okay, next crowd, okay, do the CrowdStrike thing. I will give you guys all this information.
Thank you. I'm trying to take notes and I can't.
I know, I'm sorry, I'll give you all this information. Yeah,
Just
let's
email
just
it.
do this one right here.
Let's do this.
I just want to share that we had a Tarrant County Sheriff, because these people also want to get rid of the machines. And this county sheriff sat down with citizens and went over the process for hand counting, and they're really pushing to get rid of the machines. And I also want to share that Shasta County just now has a hand count method that was certified by the Secretary of State. So that's something that we would like to push, because we can't see what's going on in these machines and such. I'll share all this stuff with you afterwards.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it. That's all we got. Thank you.
Okay, stop it so that Jim doesn't get ripped off some time. Okay, you have less than 3 minutes.
How fast can I talk?
I'm sorry, we said 45 minutes, and we've been very generous. I'm just concerned that other people that want to speak, and Manny's got to leave, we have to stop at 4:30.
I have a funeral to get to.
So I want to talk about critical infrastructure. You've heard it before. I've got this table which shows all the dates that describe this process. The California voting system standard was released in 2014, which means they started that in 2011. So that standard's 14 years old. That's a joke. FISM becomes law, and you got the NIST standard. Those documents describe the chain of custody, or the legacy that you need on the components. The Secretary of Homeland Security actually designates the voting systems as critical infrastructure in January 2017, and in October 2019 is when Dominion 510 was certified. 510 and 510A are virtually the same thing. So our system was certified in 2019, but the requirement was way back in 2017. So the idea that our components, which came from China, are grandfathered in just isn't true. This is a slide that shows why this is so important. You can have modems on circuit cards, and you can have solid-state modems just embedded in equipment, and it has been found. So this diagram shows real circuit cards. The two on the left are Dell servers. The one on the bottom center, that's from an HP server. We could have modems on our equipment, and we don't know it. Now, Art wouldn't know it. There's just no way to know, because unless you physically you go take a look. So here's some remedies that we propose. The California voting standard says that the legacy of the equipment should be documented. So you go look at 8.3 CFG and H&I. that documentation should tell us how they manage the design and building of this equipment. We should request that from Sacramento. They wouldn't give it to me. They said that was secret. So, but Art can get it. And then from there, we could actually do a physical inspection. Ross mentioned, well, that might jeopardize the certification. Your certification has already been debunked in 2022. What the ROV used to do was let Dominion program our system to load in all the ballot information for the 300 plus ballot types. And when that software was loaded on our machine, nobody checked it. It wasn't verified. It wasn't certified. We don't know what they put on there. And so your system's already not certified anymore. And a physical inspection, I can't see where, as long as we don't change anything, it's going to jeopardize the cert. So I'm advocating we do a
But our
physical
system was
inspection.
certified by the state with those parts in it.
The state doesn't recognize critical infrastructure. I've got an email from the state that says we don't recognize the federal mandate. They're just telling the feds we don't care. But you can't ignore it. It's still a federal mandate. So you're stuck. Even though California says we don't care, we care because these systems could be compromised and we should be looking.
Okay, I will check into that.
Okay.
Ross
I have
knows I'm coming.
a number of things that I wanted to respond to based on what Ross presented,
Okay.
but I'm out of time. So
And
I'm going
I-
to
and
put
I
it in an
apologize.
email and I'm going to send it to you and send
Okay.
it to Ross.
Thank you.
So you can see
That'd be
all of
great.
that. Oh, and I'll send you a bunch of other stuff that we covered today that's pertinent. And again, thanks for the forum.
Okay, we have 8 speaker cards and just 35 minutes.
Madam
So,
Chair, if I may, I'm going to go ahead and speak to some of the points that were made that I think we should work on and potentially might not get done this cycle because of where we are now, but should get done by the next one. And I have to apologize. I do have to get going.
I don't know.
And so if folks bear with me a little bit, those 8 speakers, I apologize, but I definitely want to make sure that I voice these points that were made that I felt are necessary. Strict, scrupulous, transparent, trustworthy, obviously, and we have to do that and some more. We have to be at the top of our game, and I get that. The phone number. Let's start with the simple stuff. The phone number that is on that card. I guess depending on the carrier, I have 2 phones, Verizon and T-Mobile. I paid both my bills. T-Mobile did not work. Verizon did. I don't know why, but let's make sure we figure that out and fix that issue. The voter rolls being adjusted. Okay, there's 3 points that were made by Tim. Let's try to figure that out. Let's put a graph together or graphs together over the 3 to 5 years to demonstrate how the voter rolls are being adjusted so that people can see the numbers, so the numbers don't always stay the same. The tabulation receipts is also something that was brought up. In other words, why was there a difference between the machine count and then as well from the advocates looking at the count themselves? And then I don't see no reason why, and correct me if I'm wrong, but why not allow people to be there, invite them to be part of the process? We are trying to be as transparent as possible. I think that's something that we should be doing. Percent of illegal. I'd like to really take another look at the voter rolls and how they've probably been inflated. Jim brought this up. 10% of folks that are voting potentially might not be citizens. I'm not sure that's probably because of the DMV, but that might be something that we need to look into with the state of California. And I just want to put that out there. Training. I agree. We got to build capacity. And there's no reason why we shouldn't test it, folks. Honestly, I think it is something simple, knowing that what I just saw right now, those documents, those forms were very simple. Let's be neat, right? Let's be legible so that people can read what the numbers are. But at the same time, let's be accurate with our number count. That shouldn't be too hard. I do appreciate the point that we do have the power to correct it within our jurisdiction. I get it. And we'll do our best. And I believe Art will do his best as well. We're going to be there to make sure that we're all working at our best. And then let's also make sure that we advocate at the federal level where we need to, and at the state level where we need to. The hard count versus the machines, that's tough. I have to really look into that a little bit more. I'll be very honest with you. Look, when you have to wait already 3 weeks, a month for the final numbers, people already are very angry. And so if we went to an actual hand count, how long is that going to take? Is that feasible? I'm not sure. I'm just saying, I'm just putting it out loud, folks. I'm not asking for a response. I'm just putting it out there. I'm being transparent with you. Okay? I'm open-minded, though, about it. Let's figure that out. Maybe there is a way, maybe there isn't. And the updating of the machines. All right, potentially, we need to take a look at that as well. Even though potentially they were grandfathered in or they were already grandfathered in, what does the cost look like? What does that mean moving forward? Those are some of the key points that I'm taking away, folks. I really did appreciate this conversation more so than the others that we've had, because this felt more of a forum, more of a give and take. I think that's what you wanted, a give and receive. So I thank you for that, and thank you for bearing with us and bearing with me. So in any event, I got to get going, man.
Bye. All right, so I apologize to speakers, but Manny really does have to get going, and we have a hard close at 4:30. So we have 8 speakers, and I think we should try and do 2 minutes, and I'm sorry if we allow someone 3, and we have to be the same. So I do apologize to those 8. I don't know who you are. I hope none of you who have already had an opportunity up here are on those 8 speakers. Pardon? No, I'd let Greg know in the very beginning. If you've got a card, I'm sorry. I did tell him in the beginning because you already were up here, and Tim knew. So you may not have been in the room when I said that. No, we don't have the time, and I want to be fair to those that. How many cards do we have if we take out? Who else put in a card that already spoke?
I think we have 7 that haven't.
Greg, did you put a card in too?
You want me to read all the names?
Read your names.
So I have Cece, Solomon Shapiro, Sean Neese, Stephen Fontes, Bill Todd, Colleen Griggs, and Pablo Hernandez.
No. Public comment is, you can't give. No. All right. Let's begin. Stacy?
Cece, followed by Solomon Shapiro. Speed.
3 records, in my opinion, are crucial, and they have to be absolutely accurate. One is healthcare. Of course, that's pretty obvious, life or death. Financial records, we need detailed accounting of transactions, and our election records, the direct will of the people. I'm glad to see that the ROV is implementing the seal log documentation. However, we spoke to Matt and Art back in November and showed them these logs. And I'm not sure why these weren't changed back then. So I want to show you these logs, but it's going to take a lot longer than 2 minutes. Can you see these? Somebody's got to help me. Both of these, this one. So the logs that you're looking at, we request, gosh, it's so loud. We were requesting the 2020 seal logs, and you can see on the first one, it's all filled out, sealed numbers, verified by 2 people. On the second one,
This one?
this one, you're going to see the same log, same seal numbers, same dates, yet we have 2 different verifiers. We asked why we saw 2 different verifiers, and they didn't have a good reason for it, and we never followed up. They never followed up with us. So all I can say is when you're looking at documentation, one of them is a source of truth, and so which one is true and which one was fabricated? I have other seal logs. You've already seen them, but I wanted the public to look at them too so that they can see how badly recorded they are. And we really do need to work on these seal logs. So can I ask a question to Art? May I ask him a question?
Quickly.
Who signs off on the voting center documents and the seal logs?
Yeah, so I'm overseeing all of that in regards to training, in regards to making sure that all these documents get completed. So what I can reassure you of is for this upcoming election, I'm actually hiring 2 individuals to review records as they're coming to us to ensure that they are completed, that they are signed. So I will be taking action on that.
Wouldn't it be better to have somebody at the voting center sites that are looking at these documents every single day?
So I prefer that they be at the office because all these documents are actually coming to the office daily. So I will have that person review them daily at the office. And then in reference to the seal log that you are showing, those seal logs are no longer used. We've already updated the seal log, again, based on your recommendations. For the first one that you showed, that's not the same seal, the same log.
I understand.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
she's
it's a lot
asking,
different,
is this
but
the
this is
log?
the more current one now. And you can see I redacted the names of the people because I didn't want the public to see them. But you can see all of the vacant spots here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, opportunity for growth, and we'll make sure that we continue working towards bettering that
Well,
process.
this ensures the integrity of our elections, right?
Sure.
And the accuracy of the machines.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Solomon Shapiro, followed by Sean Neese.
Good afternoon. I have a few questions, but I want to start with the question that was raised about the hand counting. I had the privilege and honor of working for Mr. Tinoco back in the 2008 election. Hope to do so again in a future election. And when it came to hand counting, every vote had to be hand counted when it came to machine votes. And in every single case of all the voting precincts that humans counted, 100% of the time the machines were accurate. I realize we may use a different system now, but 100% of the time when we were off, it was human error. So machine counting, you can definitely verify.
So how long have you been working on the elections?
I've participated as a precinct officer, probably going back to 1992. Almost every election except for one.
Seen a lot of changes.
Seen a lot of changes, and but when it comes to hand counting, definitely can't possibly be more accurate than a machine. I know that some will disagree, but I witnessed it for myself at the registrar, and I'm very confident about that part of this process. I have questions about a couple of different aspects. I would like to know, when is the actual undeliverable mail checked for being removed from further mailing beyond the postcard to try to find the forwarding address. I am concerned about the Experian True Trace. I have a lot of experience as a professional in the credit space, and I'm concerned about what Experian might do with the information that here are all of our registered voters. Even if you don't have the personal identifying information, they now have a pretty good list of who does tend to vote in our county, and that could be sold for other reasons. And finally, the signature verification process. When you come to the polls to verify your signature, you're using
Go on, finish your sentence.
a postcard that asks the voter to apply for their replacement ballot or they're voting in person, and it asks for them simply to state their name. But when a precinct officer or an election assistant has to look up the information, it's asked, what is your last name followed by your first name? And so that tends to take away from the time, it adds time to look them up, and it takes away some confidence because now you're looking up a different way than how they're listing their name. I think that's something that we could fix, and it's important to fix it.
Matt's nodding at you, so.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Shapiro.
Sean Neese, or Sharon Neese, followed by Stephen Fontes. Is Sharon here?
Or Sean? Okay.
Stephen Fontes, followed by Bill Todd.
Good afternoon. I have not attended one of these meetings before, except I was at the election integrity workshop a month or so ago, which I agree with Supervisor Perez. The spirit of this meeting is much more productive. So thank you, Supervisor Spiegel, for facilitating this, and also to the ROV staff, thank you very much. Also, I understand that there's been a lot of criticism leveled at your office, and none of us likes to be criticized. Let's just face it, we're all human. But I appreciate the fact that you've stuck with this, and we'll take you at your word that you really want the best, and appreciate that very much. One thought that I had, one of the things that I really locked onto during your presentation this morning was the transparency aspect, and the fact that you had an idea to put a camera in so that you could live stream, and I think that's fantastic. And you also talked about moving walls and knocking walls down and things like that, so I don't really know how the room is configured or what the lighting is like. But I would just like to offer a suggestion, and that would be that during the live stream, that continue even after you close, so that it goes through the night, so that people don't wonder who's sneaking in at night. You don't want people to think that. So leave the lights on, would be my suggestion, and leave the cameras rolling so that people can watch throughout the night and not have that question, because that's come up in other parts of the country about things happening nefariously after hours. And not only just put the camera toward the table where people are doing the counting, but maybe add a camera to the entrance and exit to that room. That would probably promote some public confidence. So I'd like to suggest.
Thank you very much.
Bill Todd, followed by Colleen Griggs.
First time I've actually come to anything like this, and so everything is just off the top of my head here. I was listening to that presentation here about some technical things regarding the Dominion machines, and it was mentioned that if we dismantle one, that might possibly change whether the system works or not. And my question would be, why is it a system? If they're not connected, it shouldn't be a system. So we should be able to dismantle a machine. Yes, we may not be able to use it, but we'd at least get a chance to take a look and see what's in it. So anyway, moving on to what Manuel said, Manuel Perez, he had mentioned that hand counting would be hugely difficult to do. So I just had a suggestion about that. a lot of people do have some, I guess, reservations with the Dominion machines. Is it possible to just audit one of the machines after the count randomly by taking all the ballots that have gone through each one of those machines and keep them separate for each machine? So then afterwards, if you say, okay, you know what, let's check machine number 4. We do a hand count of, why would we have to do all the elections? Just do a hand count of 1 or 2 of them and see if that machine tabulated correctly. So those are the things that I thought I'd bring up to you.
Just to respond to that, is Saul Shapiro still in the room? He just told you that they did that, what, years ago? 2008, you said, or whenever it was? 2008. They did that.
Yes.
And they found that the counts by hand had more error than the count by the machine.
And that's totally understandable, and I get it, and I even believe that. But believing something from yesterday doesn't mean that it's also going to be true tomorrow. So if we were to say that people have suspicions about the Dominion machines and say, hey, why don't we just completely do hand count? Okay, well, that's almost impossible to do. But we could say, okay, we have a problem with the Dominion machines. Let's just do an audit on this one. 1 race or 2 races, okay, a lot less time, and it's possible.
They aren't separated by races. That's the problem, is they're all the ballots from all over the county are thrown at the same time.
The tabulator tapes show everything that came through on that machine.
Okay, see? And if it came through on that machine, could we not put those ballots aside for that machine and then later hand count? Doesn't have to be every single race. Understand that would take a lot of time.
We'll discuss it, but I think overwhelming with all these things that we want Art to do this election, I'm not sure if that can be done this election, but game
thought.
for it down the line.
It's a thought.
Maybe the next one. That's a good thought.
Because we still haven't gotten the ballots. They could be separated by machine as they've been tabulated. This is machine 1's tabulation. All these ballots here. Boom, put them in a spot, put the tape around them, whatever. If someone says, hey, well, we don't like the Dominion machines, we think they did something weird, we see something crazy, fine. Look at this machine, see whether that was actually the case or not.
Okay. No, that's the problem. Matt, you want to explain?
Sure, and we do a 1% manual tally, and that's of batches that go through various.
Is that the 1%?
That's correct, and so those are batches that go through each and every scanner we have. So I'd invite him to come down and witness that process, if you'd like.
Phil, did you hear that? They already do a 1%, but he said he's offering you to come down to witness to watch what they do.
A manual tally is a person actually looking at those things.
Yes.
Yeah, we have about 60 people do that process. Yeah.
Just connect with Matt. Matt?
I'd have to refer back to public records request that Elizabeth handles.
Can you tell me, do tabulators have tapes? Do they put out tapes or daily?
So we do have the 1% tabulated tape that you're referring to. We have that as a PRA. No, we do not have a daily printout. We have 1% manual tally printouts.
That's on the, but you're talking, Shelby, are you talking about?
I requested from a certain time period, the tabulator tapes from this time to that time, and I did it a couple times, and my request came back saying we don't have those records, or that they don't exist. So then, when I was talking to Betty, that said she was told they don't spit out tabulations.
Art's going to answer for you.
Yeah, so Shelby, the ballot scanners, the precinct scanners, which there is one for every vote center. We have about 150 vote centers. There is a tape that's generated from that unit. However, that is done on election night. and that's when we close the polls. And that's what's posted outside of the facility. There's a copy there, and then we do have a copy that comes back to the office.
So then how are daily reconciliations done? Because that's something I wasn't able to share, but my thing, like what Mr. Perez was saying, is to have observers or election workers that are trained only to do this on whatever ballots are managed, whether it's from USPS or whether it's at any voting center, whatever the drop boxes, what have you, that we have paperwork, and I just have samples of these sheets that observers and/or the trained individuals, that observers and trained individuals have these sheets, and they are at every site every day, and it is from before everything starts, they sign everything, and by the end of the day, everyone signs that they have counted at least the ballots, because we know we can't find fraudulent ballots, because everything's mailed out, we don't know
Sealed,
what's
yeah.
coming in, right? But we can at least be proactive in preventing the ballot counts from being inaccurate, because if every site has a couple individuals that are signing in, signing off, they're signing off that the ballot count is right. We know what is coming in from every place that manages and handles ballots.
Aren't those the sheets that, was it Veronica or whoever was showing us?
Well, we have to have something that's filled out properly, first of all, that they're
Okay,
trained.
we already know that's an issue.
Okay, then I don't know that that is the case,
Is that
because
the-
we
is
need
that-
daily reconciliations that are signed off on.
Is that the daily reconciliation, Art?
Sorry, thank you. No, there is no daily reconciliation to that process. That's only done on election night.
Yeah, it's too much to do on election night. We should be doing this every day. Observers and people, I should be able to walk up and take a picture of that tape. I should be able to have full access of videos, images. There's no personal information that's being shared. We are simply just taking video and photo copies, and so that's evidence of what the ballot count were for that day.
But at night, we're doing the ballots themselves.
At the end of the night, there are ballot statements that Sharon showed you. The ballot statement is not signed by any election official. That gets put in with the scanned ballot, the unscanned ballots, and then a copy gets put in the lead binder, and they go over to the ROV daily. But those ones are not initialed by any election worker, so you know who to ask about the tallies. And yet they have the vote by mail collection forms where you drop your vote by mail ballot at a vote center, then those forms, that one's put onto that statement. But if you go to a Dropbox location, they have a form that they fill out and they sign who witnessed it, who collected it, when it left there, when it got to the ROV, and those ones aren't all completed out. But
Okay.
there's a vote by mail. And then the other thing is the special paper for the Dominion machines that are at the vote center. That special paper, I've worked at a print house. I thought it was like, oh, they have a heavier weight, a nicer, finish to it. They're real special. It's watermarked, and it is a special tint specific to the election, and that paper is treated as a live ballot. And they have to sign every day a log sheet. I requested it because I thought it was a log sheet of the ballot statements, but it's a log sheet of that special paper that is like what I consider the Treasury Department's paper that they print money on. And those papers have to be signed every day by someone at the vote center, and then that paper gets turned in at the end. So there's a lot of accounting that goes on.
Turn the mic off. You guys are done. Art, answer.
Sure. So as far as the ballot statements, we will modify the statement to include a
Okay,
signature
what do you mean
line.
ballot statement? She's talking,
Yeah, she was talking about a ballot statement,
Okay.
which is the daily
the daily,
capturing of information, how many ballots are coming back to the office daily, starting the 11 days, and then the 4 days, and then 29 days for our office. So we can add a signature line on there, and it already contains a date, so that way we have that captured.
thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Colleen, I am so sorry. This is the new face. She may not come back now, guys.
Oh, no, I'll come back, I promise. It's actually been a real pleasure. I've been to a few of these, so I'm glad to be here again. and a big hello. And I just thank you and appreciate you and the time and the commitment that everybody has actually devoted to this day. It's really important. These are righteous requests, and of just addressing and voting these discrepancies. They are inaccurate. I have watched. I have been an in-person poll observer. I've watched things go astray. And that's to, be the case in every event, and people roll with the punches, but it's how you deal with it, and we've all been asking. And anyways, I just ask that you please consider these same-day in-person elections with voters being required to bring their IDs, please. Paper ballots, local precincts, no machines. Over and over, you've heard that being asked or I'm asking again. So honest weights and scales are the Lord's provisions. And I'd like to just read a little bit of scripture for you and over the ROV staff, the people here, the people in Riverside County, for the voters, for the candidates. So this is 1 Timothy 2. I urge then first all that petitions, prayer, intercession, and thanksgiving be made to all the people, for the kings and all those in authority, that's you, right? That we may live peaceful and quiet lives in godliness and holiness. So with that last few seconds, I thank you again.
Thank you. Now, Colleen did take a statement, and I know we've talked about this before, and that is checking and verifying ID. Ross, can we do that?
No.
State law?
Yes.
So I have been pushing for it. I personally think we should have ID. But see, the problem is, as someone once told me in the last election cycle, everybody's mailing them in, you're not getting their ID. So it's one of those catch-22s, and California law, and the only way to change California law is to change our legislature. So I won't say any more on that one. Pablo.
Supervisor Karen, and you've seen my face before here, so I'm here again, like everybody, pleading to please do the right thing. I know a lot of people don't like doing the mini machine, which I don't. Other people said that going in person is gonna take too long. It's a mistake on doing it on paper or the minion. But you know what? Let's do the right thing. We all make mistakes. Let's come to a compromise and vote. To me, I think and feel, look at what happened in England. They got rid of the mini machine. They did it all in one day, paper ballot, and it was done. It's possible, so it's nothing, it cannot be done. Yes, it can be done. If you really work at it, it could be done. And I thank you, and I thank the other Supervisor Perez for taking the time. This is getting better. My friend Shelby and the other ladies here did the presentation. Before, the first time was about a month ago. It was pretty crappy, to be honest with you, okay? Now it's getting better, so I appreciate it. Thank you. And today is our 23-year anniversary of 9/11. And people, yes, we need to come together as an American, not as a Republican or Democrat. We need to work together. We want integrity. We want to see things that go right, not, one side say you cheated or you cheated. No. Let's get together and work together, because together, when we're together, we stand to be strong. But when you start dividing each other, we're going to be weak. So let's do the right thing, work together, and stop this bickering and the cheating. Let's do it right and do what God gave us the right to do, the right thing, and be, polite with each other and help out each other instead of fighting. And
Thank you.
I thank you for you taking the time, and hopefully it continues to get better.
Thank you.
And God bless America.
Okay, does anybody have anything? Mr. Tron, do you have anything?
Yes, Supervisor, if I may take a minute. I want to say thank you to the member of the public who turned out. I want to say that I have sat through many of these meetings, specifically on election issues. And your group here, I believe, are the most cordial, civil, courteous groups. I think it fosters a very productive conversation. And you do know well that the supervisor here and the registered voters and staff, we all are very supportive, receptive, and collaborative with what you are saying. But please know that we are working and acting under the guidance and restrictions of state law. What I meant by that is, for example, you talk quite a lot about hand counting the ballots. State law in 2023 mandate that jurisdiction with more than 1,000 voters cannot do hand count. That is, I believe, AB 969. That was adopted. And you talk about, we work with you in terms of production of the records of what you request, public records. We do try our best to comply and provide them. But we are also constrained by state law in terms of the confidentiality, the privacy of the voters, of choices that they make. So we are trying to comply, but also at the same time constrained by the state as well. Similarly, production of records, production of ballot, election materials. We have to, unless there's some other court orders, then obviously we're more than happy to comply with. Voters ID, state law mandates that we cannot ask for them. So again, we work very hard to support and be receptive and collaborate with you all, but we are also being constrained as well. So that's where, but I do appreciate the time, the conversations, and I think, like I said, more importantly is that the civil, the courteous exchange of information, communication here, I think make it very productive, make it a very strong community that we are working together. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Art, do you have any last minute words?
Sure. Thank you so much, Supervisor. So I just want to thank all of our community members for taking the time to be here this afternoon, but also for all the hard work that they put in with their audit, with many of the review of documents. And again, I get it. I get the message that we need to work on a lot of processes. I'm very open to that. And I'm also, this is an opportunity really for not only myself, but the department to be able to grow and make things a lot better as we move into the future. So you got my word on all of this that I've received today, duly noted, and we have our marching orders, so we'll go ahead and get it done as we move into the future.
Thank you. Matt or Ross, do you have anything? Mr. Perez, you're going to end our meeting.
Thank you, Supervisor, and again, just want to echo the comments. I think County Council and certainly the board members and ROV for participation, discussion, thoughts and ideas. I think County Council stated it well. The environment that we work in within state laws and regulations, federal laws and regulations, and at the same time, the ROV team, as ardent team, has committed and stated, and has shown, is continuing to take steps to enhance our processes along the way as we can. So thank you all for the continued discussion and dialogue, and appreciate Supervisor, you chairing this meeting, and Supervisor Perez, and having these discussions so that we can continue to take input and continue to adjust from there and keep enhancing our system where we can. Thank you.
And as we close, our thoughts are with Art, you and your team for the next couple of months. We'll try and back off a little bit. We don't want to interfere so that we don't get exactly what we're asked for, and that's a transparent and open election. I know you guys are going to do your best, and just remember you've got a lot of supporters that just want to be able to trust us. So thank you for your time and your efforts. I know we're pushing you up against the wall. Now go get to work.
Thank you so much. We're 55 days away, so We're almost there. 55 days.